Hello, folks. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and we'll start with the land acknowledgement.
The lands we know today as the Township of Centre Wellington have been home to Indigenous peoples since time immemorial. We acknowledge that we are on the treaty lands and traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee. With increasing encroachment by non-Indigenous settlers in the Township of Centre Wellington, the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee could not continue their traditional lifestyle and settled in their villages along the Credit River and in the Grand River Valley. These Indigenous nations uphold their treaty rights within our jurisdiction. Today, the Township of Centre Wellington remains home to Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island. We are grateful to have the opportunity to share and respect Mother Earth and are committed to building constructive and cooperative relationships with Indigenous nations.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Addendums and corrections to the agenda. We do have an addendum tonight, and it's an inclusion of a report from Madam McNabb, Managing Director of Corporate Services and Treasurer, regarding 2025 tax rates and bylaw amendments, item 8.11. So I'm going to read the recommendation that the Council permits the inclusion of the report from Madam McNabb, Managing Director of Corporate Services and Treasurer, regarding 2025 tax rates, bylaw amendments as agenda item 8.11. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Evoy, seconder on that. Councillor Adams, any comments or questions as it relates to that? All those in favor? So moved. Okay. Now we'll move down to disclosure of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Councillor Welter.
Thank you, Mayor Waters. I will declare a conflict of interest with item 8.1, the decision report on RZ 0524. Thank you.
Any further? Councillor Jefferson.
Thank you, Mayor Waters. My pecuniary interest, the conflict was a potential conflict because of 8.10, the paid parking program, the report. Thank you.
Okay. And then was it Councillor or Evoy? Did you have your? No, sorry, did see that. Okay, thank you for that. Presentation and announcements. Now we'll move down and we'll introduce Patti. Or sorry, Patti. You will be introduced, but I see Barb there first. So Barb, why don't you come up here and have a little chat with us? Yes. Welcome, Barb.
Thank you. Thanks again for having the Laura Fergus Arts Council here to present. And I knew Davey for a long time. David Wilcox was an amazing person, an incredible folk singer, musician, busker, philosopher king, passionate about local food, and also, as you can see, a remarkable photographer. And it's long overdue. We're delighted to introduce his wife, Patti, to tell you a little bit more about David, but please take time to just enjoy the walls. They're fabulous. Thanks again.
Thanks, Barb. Welcome, Patti.
Thank you. First time here. I'm sure David's been up a few times, but please don't mind me. I know what I want to say, but I have it written down because I've had company from Australia for 4 weeks and they just left this morning and I'm tired. Anyway, I just want to say hello and welcome to everybody here, and thank you to the space for Alora's Municipal Office for helping us show David's work one more time. This is the 3rd show, I guess, of his work. Yeah. And also want to thank Peter Skogger, but he's not here anywhere. Couldn't be here tonight, but he did a lot of work putting this together and everything. We had a whole lot of other pieces. I still have a whole lot of other pieces of David's work, but unfortunately, they have not been framed and they're not ready to go. But and family and friends have given theirs just to loan it for the time that it's here. Okay, and Friday it'll be 4 years since David passed, and time's gone very quickly. But I know he'd be very happy to have the space to show his work and everything. And he really enjoyed photography. He was a great love of his. And, you know, he loved Alora, and especially old Alora. And, you know, he was able to capture her beauty many times. You know, I mean, I've been putting dinner on the table or something, and all of a sudden he was gone. But the light was right, or the atmosphere was right. There was just something there that he had to go and capture it. So, you know, it's been said that his images were some of the best taken of Alora, and I think most people agree. Some of you may have pieces of your own at home. He just, one of my favorite pieces is the geese on the river. And it was just such a special thing. He was just crossing and saw it and did it. And he actually had a tourist ask him, is that really real? Or did you like put them on a rope or something? Duh. Yeah. So, yeah, I just, I hope you enjoy seeing it again, and that you'll pop in from time to time while it's here and enjoy it. And if you have any questions for me about anything, I'll try to answer. And thanks to Barb for introducing me and seeing you all in your jobs. Doing a good job, by the way. Thank you so much. Okay.
Comments, questions from Councillor MacDonald?
It's okay. It's not really a question. It's a comment. Thank you so much, Patti, for coming. I'm sorry for your loss, but I am very happy to see these displayed in here in the chamber. And thank you for coming. Yeah, and thank you too, Barb.
I'm one of those folks who've been around a long time, so I knew I called him Mr. Wilcox, and I'm just looking at that one, and again on with the geese there, the ducks. That's just a beautiful. I remember seeing that one and I thought that was just phenomenal. So yeah, he was definitely a character in the community, as you know, and everyone who knew him, and also a very talented soul as well, and a good soul. So. Anyways, thanks for coming tonight. Okay, we're going to move down to item 5.2, Mayor's update. Nothing at this time to update. I'll move down to item 5.3, Councillor Committee updates. Councillor Wilton.
I can kick us off. So just a quick update on the Fergus BIA. Had a meeting a couple weeks ago now, I think. Everything seems to be going really well with the Fergus BIA. They're busy ramping up for festival season. As everybody knows, Fergus has quite a few quite interesting festivals. And a lot of volunteer time and energy goes into putting them on, and I know they appreciate the staff support. So thank you to Pat's crew that help out, and Colin's crew too, probably. So thank you for that. But this week is the Fiber Festival is Saturday. So anybody who loves fiber arts of any type should check out Fergus. They'll have live animals, displays, all sorts of cool things, 9:30 to 4:30 in Fergus. So I think that's the big one for now. So thank you.
Thank you for that update. Any other councillors to speak to? Councillor MacDonald.
I will talk about safe communities today. Recently, on May 13th, well, I should go back, Safe Communities did discuss e-scooters on the roadways that Councillor Lloyd mentioned a little while ago. And so there was a delegation to the Roads Committee at county level for information that the Wellington County Traffic Safety Initiatives Enhancing Traffic Calming e-scooter legislation be presented by Christine Veet, Program Coordinator, Safe Communities, Wellington County. She is our coordinator. And Alex Fournier, Health Promotion Specialist, Wellington, Dufferin, Guelph Public, be received for information. So what that means is if municipalities want to allow e-scooters to operate on their roads, they must pass a permit for their use. Guidelines for best practices in municipalities looking to participate in the e-scooter pilot program is available online. This information is coming directly from the MTO. I don't know what that means actually for us in Wellington County. Safe Communities is county wide, and so I have asked Safe Communities if we implemented a bylaw, how is that enforced? Because I think it's still enforced by OPP. So I think there's still more discussion coming out of that. Safe Communities will also be at the Fergus Home Show this week, and Friday is Minto Safe Kids Day. And there will be a safety scavenger hunt. But if any of you have an opportunity to go to the Fergus Lions Home Show this week, Safety Communities will be there. Christine Veet, our coordinator, will be there and is happy to answer any questions about all of the e-scooter stuff. That's it.
Thank you, Councillor MacDonald. Councillor Evoy.
Thank you, through you, sir. June 21st marks the annual Breakfast on the Farm, happening this year at Harcroft Acres from 9 a until 12 p. It's hosted by the Fergus Agricultural Society, but Farm Safety, my committee, will be there in support of. So if you have a chance, go and enjoy Breakfast on the Farm.
Thank you, Councillor Evoy. Any other comment? Councillor Wilton, yes.
Thank you. It's not a committee update, but I did want to provide an update on the Ontario Small Urban Municipalities Conference, which a number of us attended 3 weeks ago now. So as usual, it was an excellent learning opportunity. So I highly recommend it for next year for anybody who wants to go. It's really nice because the other municipalities are similar size to Centre Wellington. So it's great learning because it's very comparable issues and solutions. And the one piece I took away was the Collingwood has an excellent approach to affordable housing. And I'm really impressed with how members of their council work together collaboratively with members of the public, people with housing knowledge and expertise, and along with their upper tier municipal partner, the County of Simcoe in their case. So I'm hoping we can have some type of knowledge exchange with Collingwood and start to put the wheels in motion to do something similar here in Centre Wellington. So I'm sure it'll take time, but I think worth getting started. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Welton, and I would agree that that's one of the better conferences to go. I quite enjoy OSM and get to meet a lot of colleagues that are similar community sizes and similar issues, and I would agree with you. Collingwood seems to be a leader in a lot of the initiatives, so that they would be definitely a group to sort of have a reach out to. And I know some of us talked to the clerk and the mayor there as well, and about maybe doing some things that could help our community as well. So yes, again, thanks for bringing that up. Any other comments or questions or any on committees that way? Okay. I thank you for that, Council. And now we're going to move down to delegations. And at this point in time, I'd like to invite Lindsay, Centre Wellington, regarding 8.1 decision report on Aypa report. And welcome, Cindy.
Thanks so much, Mayor Waters, councillors, and staff. My name, as you know, is Cindy Lindsay, and along with my husband, Jim, we are the landowners for the proposed Elora Best project. We feel it is important to share with you our thoughts and rationale for supporting this initiative, and this is similar to the letter I shared with you earlier this year. As fifth-generation farmers, we are proud stewards of the land and understand the vital role it plays in providing food for our families, our neighbors, and communities. Over the past 170 years, we have worked on the principles of demonstrating good land stewardship, ethical livestock practices, while raising a well-respected Red Angus herd and innovative crop practices. Farming is more than an occupation. As you know, it's a way of life. In the past 20 years, we have mentored both rural and urban youth who wish to learn more about farming and the beef industry by supporting their involvement in 4-H with cattle to raise and show. Many of these, especially urban students, have gone on to pursue a degree in agriculture, and we're really proud of them. Our involvement with the Fergus Agricultural Society goes back 4 generations, and we continue to play an active role. Jim has worked with local farmers as a certified crop advisor for 2 decades and continues to provide guidance and mentorship, especially with newer farmers. We are adjusting to climate change and its impact on crops, changing markets, and rising costs to ensure that the land remains viable for our families and we can continue to farm with our daughter, who will be the next generation. At the same time, we are facing the pressures of urban growth, such as the South Fergus development, and the loss of rental farmland that occurs. Partner this with the increasing growth of more corporate or large-scale farm operations outpricing the land market, makes it a challenge for family farms to grow and succeed. Ensuring a future for the next generation in our family to continue farming will be made possible by this project. We applaud the township's commitment to prime agricultural land. It is so important. And that is why we as stewards of our lands did not enter into this lightly and have carefully considered this project and its temporary nature. From the outset, we have worked closely with the Aypa team to incorporate detailed plans for soil protection, site remediation and restoration, and safety, ensuring the land is returned to productive agriculture use once operations cease after the lease is up. And this means that as we move our farm operation to our daughter over the next few years, she, as a sixth generation, will have the land ready for crops for grazing or crop production as it is restored to its previous condition. We feel we have done our due diligence, researching the company extensively, their governance and existing projects. We have spoken with renewable energy experts in both Canada and the US to learn more about battery storage, its feasibility, its risks, and impact. We feel that the Elora BESS facility is carefully designed with the land's long-term health in mind, maximum safety protocols, and providing the much-needed energy storage for increased demand. I won't build on Deborah Whale's presentation from the previous meeting, but to reiterate how important it is to have a stable energy source for agriculture. And as we look to the future and our global commitment to achieving the UN Sustainable Development Goals by 2030, which is only 5 years away, the development of battery energy storage systems play a significant part in goals number 7, affordable and clean energy, number 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure, and number 11, sustainable cities and communities. This project, we feel, reflects a balance between tradition and innovation, allowing farmers to thoughtfully choose how to use their land, and at the same time, embracing the changes necessary to build a more sustainable future, and hopefully moving the needle in reaching the Sustainable Development Goals. We hope that Council and Centre Wellington will join in supporting this project, one that values our past and invests in the future we want to create. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Questions of clarification for Cindy? Oh, thank you for your presentation.
Thanks.
At this time, I'd like to reach out to Jason MacDonald, who is literally on screen here. And Jason is with the Canadian Union of Skilled Workers. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, staff. I truly appreciate, hopefully everybody can hear me okay. I truly appreciate the opportunity just to comment on the battery energy storage project. Again, my name is Jason MacDonald. I'm the head of government and external relations for the Canadian Union of Skilled Workers. So I'm here this evening on behalf of CUSW in strong support of the Elora battery energy storage project and the high quality local jobs that it will bring to the community. These jobs provide our members, who are proud Canadian tradespeople, the opportunities to support their families, put food on the table, and contribute to the strength of Ontario's clean energy future and their local economy. CUSW, we are an independent, member-led union, for those of you who have never heard of us before, and are completely 100% Canadian. We represent over 3,000 skilled tradespeople and technical workers across Canada. We are built on principles of fairness, innovation, and we're committed to ensuring our members are equipped with the training, upgraded training, and opportunities they need to succeed in today's rapidly changing energy landscape. The Elora BESS project is the kind of Canadian-built infrastructure our province needs. And I understand the Minister of Energy, Mr. Lecce, is also in favor of a project like this. Excuse me. but this a type of project like this, as I said, enhances grid reliability, accelerates the energy transition, and ensures local workers have a real stake in building that future. When it comes to the workforce part of a project like this, to my understanding, there could be up to or around 200 jobs created from this. I dig a little deeper into those jobs, and the ones that excite me out of that is the potential for apprenticeships that could come out of a job like this for youth, not only in your area, but across the province as well. I grew up and currently reside in Kincardine, Ontario, not too far. And I can tell you firsthand that our local union members are ready, willing, and proud of the opportunity a project locally like this brings to the table. We see it as more than a job. As we say, infrastructure building for the future, potential for apprenticeships for young youth who may not want to leave the area to go away for things like that. So it's more than just a job. It can be a career for them. So, and it's a chance, obviously the bottom line here, it's a chance to help strengthen Ontario's grid and directly support the IESO in delivering reliable power for the communities we call home. And as we've heard many times and just heard it earlier, the timeline is getting shorter for that reliable power. So I don't want to repeat a lot of things. I'm sure Mr. Mayor, Council, you've been given other delegations before, so I'm not going to sit here and repeat it. But I did think it was very important, especially from a local standpoint, to come before you this evening and just let you know that on behalf of myself and our over 3,000 members, we urge you to support a project like this. We know there's things that you have to figure out, but we are very confident in what a project like this can produce. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Any questions for clarification for Jason? Councillor MacDonald.
Through you, Mayor Waters. Thanks, Jason, for coming. During this process, I've been asking all along how many jobs we will have. Are they going to create jobs? Will there be apprenticeships? This council in the past has supported trade tracks, which is about getting trades out there. I mean, we can't build these homes without trades. So clearly we can't build a battery storage facility without trades. So how many jobs do you think will be involved?
So all I've been, I can't go obviously project specific, right? Because we just are on that labor end of it, but to our knowledge, it's around 200.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Any other questions for Jason of clarification? Seeing none, thank you very much, Jason, for your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to move down to item 7, consent items. Consent agenda items are considered routine in nature and are voted on collectively. However, any member of council may request one or more items to be removed from the consent agenda for separate action. So I'm going to read the recommendation that the Council of Township of Centre Wellington approve consent agenda items 7.1 through to 7.5. Do you have a mover for that? Councillor Jefferson. Seconder. Councillor MacDonald, comments, questions? Councillor Jefferson.
Thank you, Mayor Waters. I was just wondering, with 7.2, the Bridge and Transportation Network study for these 3 bridges in Old West Garra Fraxa, I'm just wondering if they can be spoken to. There's information in there about the bridges in particular for concerned residents, I'm thinking, and also there's information about an upcoming open house that's also included in this report that I just think maybe it should just be spoken to so that it can be out there for the public consumption. Thank you.
Colin, would you like to care to speak to that?
Yeah, for sure. And through Mayor Waters, so we're just kicking off the environmental assessment for these structures in former West Guelph. I think the key piece of information here is the Public Information Center open house that's scheduled for June 10th, 2025 at the, I believe that's at the Sports Bowl. Yes, at the Sportsplex. And so we'll also be putting notices in the newspaper. We'll be mailing out notices to residents that live in the area of the closed structures to get the word out and get folks knowledgeable about that first PIC. And then, as we've done with previous studies, there'll be a second PIC as well that'll look at present kind of the recommendations from the study. So this is just the first of two kind of rounds of consultation with the community. So hopefully that helps.
Okay. Any other comments or questions pertaining to the consent? Yes, Councillor Wilton.
Thank you, Mayor Waters. This question is the report number 7.4, the operating results. And a question might be for Mark, but it might also be just for Dan, maybe to answer. So I just noticed in quite a few of the categories that there were positive variances due to unfilled positions. And so I was just curious, I know it's early days, but I'm curious, is the work still being done with those unfilled positions, or is there a capacity issue, or is there hiring issues? Is it hard to find people? I'm just kind of curious about because there were a number of them in different categories where there were unfilled positions leading to those positive variances. Thank you.
Thank you. Through Mayor Waters, we are definitely hiring. There's I wouldn't say there's a backlog in hiring, but we are definitely on track to hire all of the positions this year. We are a little bit short-staffed in HR. There's a couple of staff that were on leave, and one has returned. But I think even with that going on, I think HR has been able to step up and keep up with recruitment. A lot of the recruitment efforts result in multiple recruitment efforts because of succession planning. So I'd say we're on board. We can only do so many recruitments at one time, so it takes a number of months to go through the process.
Any other comments, questions in the consent agenda? Okay, we had a first and second there on that. All those in favor? That's so moved. Okay, we're going to move down now to item 8, consideration of reports and decision report 6235 Guelph Street, Nicole Aypa Power, a report by Mariana. Welcome, Mariana.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Waters, members of council. So the report before you concerns a zoning bylaw amendment application on behalf of Aypa Power to allow a battery energy storage system facility on a portion of the land at 6235 Guelph Street, formerly in the township of Nickel. And there's a map up showing you exactly where that's located, southeast corner, second line in Guelph Street. And the portion that is proposing to be rezoned is the top right corner. So it's the rectangular piece that would be rezoned to a site-specific zone. A related application has also been filed with the County of Wellington for an official plan amendment, and that is still currently under review. A contract for this facility was issued between Aypa Power and the IESO to allow a 211 megawatt facility as part of the first stage of a procurement plan to secure Ontario's long-term power supply, as we've heard. 13 such projects have been secured through contracts for approximately 2,200 megawatts of storage capacity across the province, and those are in various states of approval. 10 of those are for actual in the storage category itself. So that's just some background. Overall, this property itself is 43 hectares in size, so 106 acres, surrounded by agricultural lands to the west and to the south, and a landscape business to the east, and then the future South Fergus development lands to the north. The site is currently actively farmed and contains 2 dwellings, so that's why it has a site-specific agricultural zoning on it. The 2 dwellings are at the southwest portion of the property, so they're accessed off Guelph Street. So the area is, or the property itself is designated prime agricultural in the county official plan and is zoned agricultural exception, as mentioned. And that was what for recognizing the 2 dwellings on the property. Only a portion, as I stated, in the northeast corner would be rezoned, and that would include approximately a 4.6 hectare footprint of the facility itself, along with buffer area around it and a 200-meter setback from the facility itself to second line. So I can move this forward. There we go. So that portion, the rectangular portion that's proposed to be rezoned, this is the site plan that actually shows what would be detailed on that. And so it includes, as you can see, a large setback. It's a 200 meter of that front portion towards second line, and then the rest would be the battery units themselves. And to clarify, there are no buildings proposed on the property. It's just the battery units themselves. In terms of the provincial policies and a review of those, recently in the October revision of the provincial planning statement, energy storage systems was included as a definition and included as part of the definition of an on-farm diversified use in the prime agricultural area. So that indicates that such uses are anticipated in rural areas, and that's likely primarily due to the fact that that's where these hydro transmission lines are generally located. So normally these uses are subject to criteria in such that they're limited in scale and typically would be permitted at about 2% or up to 2%. In this case, the footprint would be 10% of the lot area. And then, as I mentioned, additional area for buffering. So it is beyond the regular on-farm diversified use, hence the need for the zoning amendment. But it can also be looked at as infrastructure as well, and that argument was made in the planning justification report because provincial policy also allows for limited non-agricultural uses in the agricultural area that would allow private infrastructure facilities, for example, where certain criteria are met, and some of those would include that there's an identified need and that alternative locations have been evaluated. So those criteria are all met for this application. In either case, it's consistent with provincial policies. Numerous studies and reports were submitted in support of the applications as a requirement, also corresponding to the Class EA process for minor transmission facilities. And these included archaeological, natural heritage, noise assessments, hydrogeology, geotechnical, and other reports. The studies generally conclude that the proposed facility meets all the applicable guidelines for those, and that any potential impacts could be effectively mitigated. All those studies are on the township's website. The statutory public meeting was held on November 25th, and also 2 staff information reports have been provided to council that are linked to the report before you. So the report summarizes the reports summarize the application, the background information and studies, public and agency comments that have been received, and staff and consultant responses to the matters or concerns that were raised through the consultation process. Planning policies do direct that municipal governments prepare for and accommodate growth, and that includes ensuring the appropriate infrastructure is in place to support growth. The planning reports and the addendum outline all the applicable provincial policies and how they are met, and staff generally agree with the assessment. Council deferred consideration of the staff recommendation report on May 12th, as you know, so that additional correspondence received by Minister Lecce could be included and distributed. And so that is included with the report that's before you, as well as a couple of other public comments received in the interim. So in conclusion, after reviewing the application, all of the information and studies that have been provided and the comments received, it's staff's opinion that the zoning bylaw amendment is consistent with provincial planning policies and that the matters and concerns raised can be effectively addressed during detailed design and the site plan process and secured through the legal agreements that are necessary over the long term. As such, staff recommends that council approves the zoning amendment application and endorses the related county official plan amendment. If approved, the bylaw would be brought forward for enactment after the county OPA is adopted as required by the Planning Act. So those are my notes on the application. I'm here to answer any questions, and I know that there are representatives from the applicant in the audience as well that could answer any questions that council may have.
Thank you, Mariana. Questions, comments from council? Councillor Adams.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. No questions, actually just a few comments, and I wrote them down because I didn't want to forget what I was going to say here. So first, I really want to thank Cindy for her delegation today. We know how deeply committed you are to supporting the agricultural community in Centre Wellington, and I also recognize the importance of allowing on-farm diversification to keep our farms viable. Throughout this process, we've read and we've listened and we've learned a lot. And while I understand the need to diversify our energy sources and acknowledge that battery energy storage systems may have a role to play in the broader energy transition, I'm not convinced that this specific proposal is the right one for our community. We must recognize that the political and economic landscape has changed significantly since this project was first proposed, and it would be irresponsible not to factor these changes into our decision-making today. I've heard from many residents, and the overwhelming message from the majority of them has been clear. This project in its current form, size, and location should not move forward. This proposal is being advanced by Aypa Power, a company backed by Blackstone, one of the largest U.S. private equity firms. At their very initial presentation to us, Aypa themselves emphasized this relationship. While the company has made efforts to present itself as a Canadian energy partner, its headquarters leadership and core investment interests remain American in scope. This isn't a partnership with a company focused on reducing fossil fuel dependence. It's an investment play in energy infrastructure. The Blackstone CEO has been often described as a trusted advisor to the US president. Blackstone is invested in everything from gas pipelines to AI data centers. This is not inherently wrong, but we must be honest about who we are dealing with and what their priorities are. With both federal and provincial governments increasingly emphasizing Canadian procurement and economic sovereignty, we need to ask ourselves, why would we approve a project of this nature on agricultural land near our communities by a foreign-backed entity when even our governments are reconsidering similar arrangements? Turning down this proposal does not mean we are against renewable energy or climate action. It simply means we are choosing what is right for our community right now. We have many pressing priorities: protecting farmland, planning for growth in South Fergus, assessing our transportation needs, including a possible bypass, and shaping what the gateway to Fergus will look like. We can't take on everything at once, and we must be strategic in our focus. Finally, I want to comment on the unusual nature of a legal representative from Aypa addressing one councillor's comments in a delegation without a formal presentation. I believe this underscores the level of pressure being applied by a very powerful corporation. I believe it is essential that we as a council remain independent in our decision-making and not swayed by corporate influence. We have urgent priorities, and we must focus on those. There is also a real concern about the safety and environmental impacts of this relatively new technology, including risks like fire, noise, and air pollution. This will become one of Canada's largest BESS facilities. I believe the risks outweigh the benefits at this time, and I will not be supporting the resolution, and I will be requesting a recorded vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Councillor Evoy.
Thank you through you, sir, and thank you to my colleague, Councillor Adams, for your very thoughtful comments. Also, thank you to Ms. Lindsay for delegating. It's always a pleasure to hear from you. My question is more, I'd like some clarification on a couple of things with the permission of the chair. Number one, what does this landscaping look like? Can you give us a better picture? Are we looking at 2-foot bushes? Or are we looking at 10-foot trees? What can we expect at our gateway?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Evoy. We don't have those design details yet because we're not at the site plan process. So that is something that we understand there will be berming and vegetation all around in the form of trees, and it will essentially be blocked from view. But we don't have the precise details because we haven't gone through detailed design yet.
Thank you. And through the chair, that's what I needed to hear. And I will want to see in writing that when we go ahead, that we won't actually be able to see it because it is terribly unsightly. And one of the reasons I like the concept is that we will in fact have tall trees that will affect it. So respectfully, the word essentially we won't see it is something I'd like to clarify and make sure that it is nicely landscaped so that it is our gateway. And to Councillor Adams' point, we are working hard on that. And I think it's imperative that we don't brush over that in any way. I also want to speak, one last question was around, I didn't understand the fire tank, what that is and what that is in relation to the what's the word, some kind of battery auxiliary, or what was the word? I apologize. Sorry, I'm looking for that image that you had, the big one, that one. What is the, oh gosh, there's another kind of battery there. Do you see it there? The fire tank and the augmentation battery. If you could explain what those two are, please. Thank you.
Through Mayor Waters, I don't think I can explain that, but if with permission, I think maybe if somebody can answer.
If you could state your name and welcome.
Evening, Eric Holton. I'm with Aypa Power. Happy to try to answer the augmentation question. Batteries, they are designed, the product is designed to last for 20 years. However, naturally, the technology does degrade over time. And so we like to either overbuild or have the option to reserve space within the layout to add more batteries to restore the original capacity of the project in its entirety.
I'm incredibly surprised and I don't understand this answer. You're making room to add more batteries than what we're approving?
What you see on the site plan, there are blank spaces in there. So we're showing all the location of the potential location of batteries, but on day one, there may be some blank spaces in there. There are placeholders for adding batteries to fill in those spaces in the future. But the footprint will not change over time.
Yeah, I think the goal here is to maintain the power level or the ability to receive the power at the same level, so that the potential for extra batteries, like you get diminishing returns after time because the batteries kind of weaken, and then that additional provides you some additional ability to get it back to that where you want to be, your critical point.
That's exactly correct.
Thank you for clarifying, sir. Frankly, that's a little disconcerting because what is that life period and why would only some dissolve in that amount of time? And then if more dissolve and more are dissolving, for lack of better words, I don't understand the word, but if more are losing power, what happens then? You're not going to expand the footprint. And if they're going to die after that amount of time, are you removing some to replace them with others? Like, I didn't understand any of this at the onset, sure. So this is new.
So they do not shut down entirely. The amount of energy they can store over time just degrades slightly over 20 years. And so in aggregate, over the entire array of batteries, to maintain that original charging capacity. We add more. Yes, they all go down. Right.
And then
Sure. So the fire tank there, it is there in the event of a fire. In the event of that fire, the fire department determines that water would be helpful to address that fire. That there is water on site available on demand. So we do not need to tap into any municipal water sources.
Through the mayor, I was under the impression we don't fight this fire with water.
It is purely there as a precaution at the option of the fire department if they want to use water. However, the intent of it is not the recommendation for addressing fires at battery energy storage facilities is not to spray water directly on the battery components themselves, but it is there to cool down other adjacent equipment, or in the event there's a small brush fire, it's there to control that. But it is purely a precautionary measure and a backup device.
Councillor MacDonald.
Through you, Mayor Waters. I want to thank Cindy for her speech. That was wonderful. And thank you for the information. How far are you going to have to dig down to achieve water?
Oh, we are not.
You're building it from scratch?
In a tank, and that water is brought in from elsewhere. We are not drilling into the water table. We're drawing water from the municipality.
And where's elsewhere?
That has not yet been determined. It will be likely trucked in from somewhere else, but the exact source of that has not been determined.
So not in Center Wellington? Do you know?
We do not know. I can't be sure today.
Okay. Fair enough. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Councillor MacDonald.
I have a few comments. Through you, Mayor Waters. This has been a huge project for us. I think this is, since I've been on council, this is the biggest research I've ever done on anything that we've ever done in this chamber. With that said, I want to acknowledge Councillor Adams. This is in Ward 4, and the ward councillor always receives the most comments, I believe, when it's in their ward area. And I want to acknowledge that some of the comments I've been made aware, and they've also reached out to all of council. We can see when someone emails us, it went to all of council. So there's a community there that is very opposed to this, and I want to acknowledge that. During this process, I've never had agriculture reach out so much at every meeting, at every public meeting. Deborah Whale comes to mind from the Grand River Agriculture Society. Agriculture farmers never weigh in much in this chamber. And so I want to recognize that too. And a lot of them have been supportive of this project. All through this process, I've been asking for a comment from the Minister of Energy, Stephen Lecce, Minister of Energy and Mines. Previous to that was Todd Smith. And the letter that we received is very important about that. I contacted AMO. I want to acknowledge that this project was also outside the expertise of staff. They had to do an awful lot of research themselves, an awful lot of digging. There's only so many places we can call and what we can do because this project is new. This is Canadian in the fact that it's here. I'm not really liking the part of who's doing it. I also know there's other investors that are here that I found out during my research process, and I had to ask those questions. I asked for board meetings minutes, and then all of a sudden I get an answer. I also want to acknowledge Save Our Water for being involved. research. To me, that was important about where the water is coming from. In the beginning, I have a good understanding of energy storage, not on this scale. You know, the Aypa plant in Brantford is a big concern that it did catch fire. It was in an industrial area. It was not near an area where we're going to be building 6,000 homes down the road. So that's a huge concern for me. So I look actually to my colleagues and Mayor for any more comments that they want to say.
Thank you, Councillor MacDonald. Any further comments or questions, Councillor Jefferson?
Thank you, Mayor Waters. My question just kind of revolves around your comment with secured through legal agreements. Because this is something that's very new to us and that we haven't experienced before, will the legal agreements kind of work around if there's any issues that arise after it's built, so that if there's something that does come up that is an issue for the residents or is an issue with the facility itself, would the legal agreements cover having Aypa remedy it and the cost of it and things like that, so that it doesn't fall back onto the taxpayer themselves? Thank you.
But there would be at a minimum the Section 41 site plan agreement on the property, and then whatever other agreements we feel we need to have with the applicant and the owner.
Follow up? Yep.
Thank you, Mayor. My follow-up is just because there was a lot of concern that there may be ground vibrations or noise or different things like that that we wouldn't know or actually be exposed to until the facility's like built and up and running. So I'm just curious that would be considered something that could be included in there. Just if it comes off that all of a sudden the noise is higher decibel than it's allowed, or that there's things that we can do to remedy the situations as they come up.
Yes, through Mayor Waters. All of the studies had parameters that were reviewed and acceptable levels. So if there was something discovered where it exceeded that or went beyond that, then it would need to be remedied.
Councillor Evoy?
Thank you, through you, sir. Just to reiterate and pull right out of that, I've asked a question about insurance because we've had many concerned citizens send us letters about insurance. So could we just reiterate for ourselves and anyone watching what level of insurance? So in the event of someone getting injured, of the land itself, of anything, like, do we know what how far the insurance goes with regards to proper insurance?
Through Mayor Waters, and thank you for the question. I'm not sure I could answer that. I know there was a response provided by Aypa regarding insurance, and that there are no known cases where insurance has been affected by properties.
I don't mean other people's insurance. I mean, what will Aypa insure? And Aypa will insure all health and safety issues after the fact.
Again, we'd have to work through that, through the detailed design and the legal agreements that are needed in terms of what we feel would be required, if anything.
And sir, will we have an indication of that at council level, or will that not be something that we'll have privy to see?
Through you, it's site plan approval is typically deferred to staff. Well, it's now it's just staff approval. Yeah, there used to be an ability for council to. Yeah.
Councillor MacDonald.
Through your Mayor Waters, this is a good conversation we're having. With regards to insurance, I have been approached that homeowner insurance would be difficult. We're planning on building all these homes. And so I guess we won't know until actually homeowners and mortgagees apply. I did reach out to Guelph Home Builders Association. And I think one of the board members is here, but I haven't had a response. But I did, we're trying to build homes, and I know you are too. And our planning department is working very hard on trying to build homes. And so I would like to see something in there for future, for our protection, that I guess that would fall under the risk insurance. If there is any issues with homeowners having a difficult time getting home insurance, that is not on the municipality. It is not on this council. It is not on us altogether. So I just want that noted for the record. And the other question I have is site plan approval. We normally are not allowed to weigh in on that anymore. We made that bylaw. I would like for council to weigh in on that, whatever council of the day is when this project, when it comes to site plan. I think that's just a request I'm making. Thanks. Or could we?
I can comment on that through Mayor Waters. That ability was removed through the Planning Act recently to be able to have that as a council decision.
I guess further, when we agreed to that, we weren't dealing with a battery storage plant that will be the largest in Canada. So that's where I think, could we as a council not put that contingency in there that we would like to see the site plan?
I think Brett wants to speak to that.
So I think the challenge is the Planning Act itself was changed to require that only municipal staff person who's appointed gets to approve site plans, not council. So in no municipality in Ontario does council have the right to approve a site plan. Having said that, it is a public process. In terms of a site plan application is a public document. There's no kind of notification. But on the topic of agreements, the other thing that will have to come to council is a community benefits agreement that will require council approval. So through that process, we can ensure that whatever documentation there is comes to council in a report related to the community benefits agreement. And if there are outstanding concerns about liability or safety, those things that may not fit within the purview of a site plan agreement, they could be embedded in the community benefits agreement, and we'll ensure that happens.
Thank you very much. That is okay. Good.
Further comments or questions? Councillor Addams.
Thank you. A comment, then a question. I think there's a lot being removed from the Planning Act when it comes to municipal control. And I think we're hearing a lot about, even tonight, as we're about to make the decision, hearing things like, these are not yet determined. This is something new. Agreements. And what we do know on these development type matters, that if something goes wrong, this is going to be lawyer to lawyer dealing with this, not like our council, and that's going to be super costly. And this is going to be against Aypa, which is recently a $1 billion credit-backed company. So this will be lawyer to lawyer. My question was, you just spoke about the community benefits plan. I was wondering if you could maybe just give an overview of what that entails and what that looks like and what that process looks like, because there could be a lot of people in the room that maybe are not aware of that, and that's coming.
We would defer that answer to the CAO, who's more, because it's a planning application, we've tried to keep the community benefits separate from the planning review.
through Mayor Waters, I've had a few conversations with Aypa staff around the community benefit agreement, and this is something that happens with all battery energy storage facilities that are constructed. There's a community benefit agreement that is entered into with the municipality. And what it is a contribution that's given back to the municipality annually based on the megawatts stored on the facility. So in this case, 211 megawatts, there would be a dollar amount per megawatt contributed back to the township through a community benefit agreement that we could use as we choose. We would put a policy in place, but we've been keeping that separate from the planning process and would only bring it forward if the facility is approved for development.
Okay. Any other comments? Councillor Evoy.
To be clear, sir, so as not to be swayed by the dollar amount before the decision is made. Thanks for clarifying.
Any further comments or questions from council? Yes, Councillor MacDonald.
I just want to say that this planning process has been strange. I think with my background, my education, and drawing in all the research, the whole process has been strange how it went for me as a councillor. And it has nothing to do with the planning staff. It was the outreach, you know, that Aypa did. And I want to commend Aypa on, you know, how hard they did work to contact everyone in that area. I do want to say that. For me, as a Canadian citizen and someone who lives in Ontario and someone who sits at this table, it was not helpful for me to be educated by a fireman from New York. I understand that they deal with these types of battery storage, not like this one, apparently. But I would far rather take the knowledge from our fire marshal's office with the province than a fireman from New York. So I just want to state that. So again, I do appreciate the outreach, but it was confusing on how our planning actually works in Ontario. And so I'm just that's all I'm gonna say about it. Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Councillor Craddock.
Oh, I don't even know what I'm going to say. Apologies. I don't speak often, and it's for a reason. I think you guys articulate most of the things better than I ever will. But in this case, I find that when it was first proposed, there was safety risks was the main concern. And I think Aypa, and together with Township and our fire department, mitigated those concerns. They presented the truth that this won't be a Halifax type situation. There's not the potential for that type of catastrophe, really. The risks do truly seem small from my limited knowledge on it. The setback, 10 meters or 10 feet is what's required. We're at 200. Like, Aypa does seem to have gone above and beyond the call to make sure that this is a safe facility in our community. They're bringing local investment, creating jobs, creating opportunity for. We've had nothing but support from various, including ministers. And I think it's getting strange because we're making it strange. I think it's an American company, yes, or it's an investment in our community. And I don't think it's the ownership that matters, it's that investment that matters. Those regulatory standards are still in place no matter what. We already partner with other global companies, and I'm sure telecommunications or whatever it may be, like, that's already a thing. And I don't want to be part of a back and forth between Canada and the States at like such a micro level. I get that they're a huge company, but I don't think that it's clean energy should be political. Part of our mandate is to be stewards of environmental stewardship, and that's exactly what's proposed here. And I think we're making a big fuss over a simple idea that is good in essence, and I will support it, and I hope we all do. That's my one comment on that.
Thank you, Councillor Craddock, for that. Any other comments or questions? I guess everyone's chatted. I probably should say a few words. I will be in support of this. I always look at this as kind of the big picture, start from the need. The need is great. As we're been made aware, there's going to be we're going to need to increase the demand for energy in this by about 75% in our province. And it is a green initiative. It does make sense from all that. I think where the fear is always the technology or something new that way, but it's not so new. I think the site plan, when I looked at the site plan, I thought it was a really well thought out site plan in terms of its spacing away from the community, where it was located, all that made sense. And if anyone really would have a real concern, it would be the owners of the land, given the fact that it is their land. Yeah, all that made sense for me. I did, like yourselves, I did a lot of research on this. Not much unlike I did the research back in the day of the racetrack. So it does. It's hard when you have folks reach out in the community who are your friends and people you know who feel strongly about that. But at the end of the day, we got to make a decision, based on what's good not only for our community but what's good for the greater community as well. And I think this will be an example of how that is done. So with that being said, yes, Councillor MacDonald.
Through your Mayor Waters, I do agree with you with the site plan, and I just want to say the site plan is much better than I believe originally proposed because of the input that I've been giving as a councillor. I think many of us have, but I know you have, I have. And so that is good planning when our voices are heard. So that part I do appreciate. Thanks.
And I do want to credit the community for reaching out and council for reaching out and having a struggle with this. That's really important in the sense that it's something, I think if you were sort of just automatically went there, I think you looking into this and evaluating it based on sort of all the principles and all that type of thing is really good. And I think not only you should be proud of yourself, the community should be proud of yourselves for doing that, because these decisions are not easy. And but at times we have to make difficult decisions. Okay, with that being said, I'm going to read the recommendation here that the Council of Township of Centre Wellington recommends the County of Wellington adopts an official plan amendment file OP 2024-04 to allow a battery energy storage system facility at 6235 Guelph Street, Nickel, and that the recommendation be forwarded to the County of Wellington, and that the Council of Township of Centre Wellington approves application RZ05-224 to amend Township Zoning Bylaw 2009 045 to allow a battery energy storage system facility at 6235 Guelph Street, Nickel. So I've read that. So you asked for a recorded vote? Okay. So how would you like to conduct that then?
We need a mover and a seconder.
Okay, so I'll do a mover on right now for this is just on the recommendation. Okay, seconder on the recommendation. So that'll be Councillor Craddock, Councillor MacDonald.
Any debate or are you going to call the question?
I'm going to call the question.
Okay, you go ahead, call the question, and then I'll do the recorded vote.
Okay. It's a question of being in support or not in being in support. Okay. And then, so are you going to ask for individuals, or how are you going to do
We'll
that?
do it after you call the question and you see a show of hands, then I will record it for the record.
Okay, I'd like to call that question. Who would be in favor? I don't have the, other than the recommendation, the question is, are you in support of the recommendation? Yes. Okay.
Opposed.
Opposed? Okay.
The recorded vote, Councillor MacDonald, yay or nay?
Yay.
Councillor Jefferson?
Yay.
Councillor Lescard-Neboy?
Yay.
Councillor Addams?
No.
Wilton's out. Councillor Craddock?
Yay.
And Mayor Waters?
Yes.
It doesn't.
Yes.
It does in fact carry.
The staff and everyone's involvement on this, and including the community as well. Okay, so can we bring in Councillor Wilton? Why don't we take let's do a 5-minute break. I'll give everyone just a chance to stretch. Okay, welcome back, folks. Now we're going to go down to item 8.2, Water and Wastewater Servicing Master Plan Preliminary Preferred Alternative. And we are going to welcome, Adam. Yes, welcome, Adam.
Yes, thanks, Mayor Waters, and hi, members of council. So I'm going to start with me real quick here, and then I am going to bounce it over to Ryan Maiden. And so we're here to present the preliminary preferred alternative for the water and wastewater servicing plan. Devlin, you could just pull up our slides, please. Thank you. Yeah, so I'll start. I'm going to bounce over to Ryan Maiden, and then John Tyrell, who's our consulting lead from RV Anderson. He's joined us online. He's going to be delivering part of the presentation also. Yeah, so this is a plan that really is about growth and how the township is going to service the growth that's been proposed through Official Plan Amendment 126, and particularly how we're going to service growth from a water-wastewater perspective. We are following the master plan framework outlined in the municipal class environmental assessment process for this plan. And our problem opportunity statement is, we're growing or attracting new businesses and residents. To meet the future needs of the community, we need solutions to grow the water wastewater servicing infrastructure. We're looking through this plan, we're looking at different alternatives to service that growth, and then ultimately landing on a preferred alternative, which is what we're here to present. So the purpose is to provide council with an opportunity to receive and understand the preliminary preferred alternative. This is just an information report for now, and staff will be returning at the June 16th meeting seeking council endorsement of the preliminary preferred alternative, which will then make it the preferred servicing alternative. The full report for the study in draft form has been posted to the township's Connect CW website and can be accessed online. And just reiterating again, here we've got the resolution from the report. This is just an information report at this time. Okay, so now I will turn it over to Ryan to get into the details here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Coming from the Municipal Comprehensive Review study, we were giving growth projections out to 2051, like Adam alluded to. So that is what the planning horizon was for this study. Fergus and Elora are slated to grow to 52,370 by that time. So this is the population we used in our current urban area, as well as the areas provided by OPA 126. So we have the population we are slated to grow to, we have the areas that we are going to grow in, and then we have the density targets that we have selected. There we go. Thank you. So here's our existing water infrastructure network. We've got a few extra areas identified, the future well areas 3, 5, and 7, as well as the future Middlebrook Road well area. So what we've done as part of this assignment was to perform a hydraulic model of the existing system and under future conditions for 2051. Under the existing conditions, the existing system does provide adequate servicing under our identified levels of service. So all of the projects that we've identified here are a facet of growth. So one of the main water-based issues that we were looking at was, as we grow within the next 15 to 20 years, there is a water storage capacity issue, mainly in the Fergus area. So what we looked at was 3 areas where potential water storage could be allocated. We had an area by the booster pumping station, an area kind of in the center portion of Fergus in the yellow, and then in the north area there in green. And the preferred alternative, or the preliminary preferred alternative, is kind of in that north green area. It provides the ability to service both the high pressure zone and the low pressure zone in Fergus. while being in close proximity to both systems, so negating large lengths of water main to service both areas. So what that'll do is we'd be looking to increase the storage by about 5,700 cubic meters in that location, and that would provide us the ability to meet the demand until 2051. We've got an overall map here of some of the water projects that, well, of all the water projects that were identified in this study. There are a total of 28 projects that we've looked at. They include the reservoir area that I identified, as well as some of the extensions to the new well areas. They're in green coming down Middlebrook Road as well. And then some of the servicing areas to the boundary expansions through OPA 126 that we've identified in the gray there. And then with that, I will turn it over to John, if you want to handle the wastewater.
Sure. Hi, my name is John Turrell. I'm the project manager from RV Anderson Associates Limited, and we've been helping with this study, as Adam noted. So I'll quickly go through the wastewater portion. So I won't list everything off there. Just a high level, basically, the Elora Salem system, essentially the existing sewer systems drain to the Elora wastewater treatment plant, and the Fergus systems, Fergus area drains to the Fergus plant. So really you have two collection systems and 2 wastewater treatment plants, and 7 pumping stations between them, given the topography in both communities. There's also 2 siphon crossings of the Grand River, and 2 bridge crossings of the sewer system across the river in Fergus. Next slide, please. So similar to what Ryan discussed, using hydraulic modeling and reviewing the needs of the new growth areas that were identified in the 2024 official plan, which are the gray highlighted areas, we developed collection system recommendations that will provide the sewage servicing to the for both areas, and we also looked at, obviously, as the water did, looking at some of the some areas, a few areas within the existing collection system that needed to be upgraded because of infill and other related growth in the communities. So again, the master plan document and draft has as much detail as you need to know about that. Your package also contains the executive summary, which gives more information on that and that you can consider. The next slide, please. So with regard to the wastewater treatment portion, the Fergus wastewater treatment plant currently has a capacity of about 8,000 cubic meters a day. The projected requirement by 2051 is for 9,400 cubic meters a day. So there's a current deficit. The Elora plant has a capacity of 5,000 cubic meters a day, and at 2051 it'll be under capacity, so there'll be more room there. We did look at seeing if we could shift flows from one drainage area to the other, but the analysis, and we discussed it in the master plan, it didn't make a lot of sense. You're really robbing Peter to pay Paul, and so basically we looked at the requirement to upgrade the Fergus wastewater treatment plant for additional capacity, and based on the population projections, we estimate that you'd require that upgrade to occur probably around 2042, which would mean you'd be starting the process with planning and Class EA and design probably in around 2036, just because it takes a certain length of time. It probably takes 3 years to do the study and probably 3 years to do a proper expansion. Next slide, please. So just a high level view of the issues, you know, that would be that we have in Fergus. Obviously, like most plants, it's located beside the river. There's one of the big issues is, and as you all know, there's a lot of bedrock in the community, and this site does have a lot of bedrock, and it's also a relatively contained area, so it's space is at a premium. Next slide, please. So when we were looking at options, obviously we have to look at site constraints. When we're doing a significant upgrade like this, we also want to look at the potential to expand the plant beyond 2051. We're not going to plan that in detail, but we have to feel confident that whatever you choose to do will give you the ability to expand it beyond 2051. Another consideration is to maximize the existing assets so that we minimize throwaway costs. We don't want you necessarily putting something new in or fixing something, you know, in 2030, 35, and then in 2041 replacing it. And then the other issue too, of course, is this is a live wastewater treatment plant, so construction staging and the layout of the new expansion areas has to make sure that the plant can still operate. So to look at this, we looked at two options that are common in Ontario. One is to retain the current configuration, which is called a conventional activated sludge facility, which, again, if anybody has any questions, we can certainly explain. But basically, it's a series of tankage. The first set of tankage basically takes the solids out. The next set of tankage takes the organics out, and then basically the effluent is then goes through a filter, which cleans out the nutrients in it, and then it's disinfected and sent off to the Grand River at the acceptable concentrations. Or the other option is convert Fergus to what's called a membrane bioreactor facility, which is, if anybody has a cottage, you may have an ultrafiltration unit under your sink for drinking water. It's a high tech version of that. So basically, you do your primary treatment as we discussed, and then you send the water that's been treated, aerated, into this membrane bioreactor, which sucks the water through it, and it takes out the nutrients, and between that and the previous oxygen tank takes out the organics. So next slide, please. So basically, what the colored boxes here show what you'd have to do in terms of the layout. So we would expect you'll need a new building at the very beginning for a headworks building, given the age and the capacity of the existing headworks building. If that'll provide an ability to expand that existing building. I know there's an expansion underway right now on it. There'd be another two more trains in the primary system, a third train for the secondary system, which is the organics. And then there's already existing filters that are used right now to take out the nutrients, such as phosphorus. We'd be also looking at another train for that. And as well, the circle there is a primary digester, which is basically the sludge that's produced from the wastewater treatment has to be stored for basically to be stabilized and then removed by land application. The next slide, please. And then the other facility, as we mentioned, was a membrane bioreactor, an MBR. The front is similar, the digestion is similar. And again, as I said, what we're looking at doing is building a new area for the membrane bioreactors, and the big yellow rectangle is all the equipment that you need to use to put into for the membrane bioreactors. Next slide, please. So this is, I mean, I won't go into detail too much, but basically we looked at various these two options in various categories. So both will meet existing and future needs. The MBR may be a bit better in terms of giving more capacity in the future. Impact on current operations and maintenance. It'll be the CAS system is similar to the system, so the operators and those are good understanding. The MBR is a new treatment system, and you're going to have two different treatment systems at your plants. Constructability is about the same. Impact on existing infrastructure. There will be some throwaway costs associated with the MBR facility. Both systems provide the equal level of treatment, so approvals and permitting and staying within the regulations is okay. Both facilities can be expanded. The capital costs, and what we've done is we've been conservative on these capital costs because a lot of municipalities, for example, Collingwood with their water treatment plant, were shocked to see what the actual cost came in at. So what we try to do is give you a conservative but a cost nonetheless that would, is probably suitable for these times. So capital cost for the CAS is about $71.3 million or $71 million. The MBR is a little more expensive at 74. When you look at the 40-year life cycle costs, the cost to replace the assets it's cheaper with the CAS because it's all the same as the existing and there's less things to replace. The membrane bioreactors need to be replaced every 10 to 15 years. The operational costs are lower with the conventional current system that you have. We're thinking about $14 million versus around $17 million for the MBR because it's more electrically, it takes more power to do the work. So the overall score, we'd recommend that you look at conventional activated sludge facility. Next slide. I think I'll pass it over to you, Ryan.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, thanks, John. So we've itemized the major cost components here of the program. This, and a reminder, this is a capital program to 2051. And so the total cost of the program is just shy of $200 million. We are currently in the preliminary stages of our development charges background study. And given that a lot of these projects are growth related, they will serve as an input into the development charges background study. And then a financing plan will be developed through that development charges background study, which will then serve as input into our annual budget process. So no cost implications at this time as a result of this report, but this is just an estimate of what the program will cost to 2051 to service that growth from a water wastewater perspective. In addition to the capital program, there are also some other recommendations. So through this study, we've developed these sophisticated water and wastewater system models, which will be great tools for us going forward to assess our system capacity as we grow and to look at the timing of these upgrades that are needed. We will need to update those models to keep them current periodically. So we're saying about every 5 years we'd be updating the models. We also want to include some type of incentive to get homeowners to disconnect storm drainage from sanitary services. So it used to be common for some drains, for instance, to drain into the sanitary sewer network, which adds puts a strain on our wastewater treatment capacity during major wet weather events. So to be able to get homeowners to disconnect those systems, we would like to offer some type of incentive to kind of spur more disconnection. We have some of the critical infrastructure is located at the river crossings, and one of those being a siphon and a LoRa. They're very hard to inspect because they're always full of wastewater. So we would like to do a program to actually get in and inspect that infrastructure just to assess the condition, determine if there's any rehabilitation needed or when that siphon would be up for replacement. And consistent with our asset management plan, we want to continue to prioritize state of good repair projects to ensure that we are keeping up with that and that the system is reliable and functions properly. So in conclusion, so another good outcome of this study is because we've built these models to look at not just what our system is going to look like in the future and what our future needs will be, but we also want to look at how is our system performing currently and what levels of service are we providing to our water wastewater customers. And the conclusion was that our levels of service are quite good and there are really no capital needs at this time. We're providing good levels of service. We do need new infrastructure to service growth, the 2051 timeframe. Most of the new infrastructure is focused in these urban boundary expansion areas that were highlighted on the map in those gray colors and that are being considered through OPA 126. The preliminary preferred alternative provides a list of capital projects with high-level cost estimates and implementation timeframes where known. Development charge allocations, I mentioned this, for growth projects will be determined through the development charges background study, which is in process. And finally, these projects will be considered to our annual budget 10-year capital plan, 10-year capital forecast development process. And these projects will be input into the budget through that mechanism. In terms of next steps, we will be back to Council June 16th, seeking endorsement of the preliminary preferred alternative. And, between now and then, Council is welcome to take a look at that report that's been posted online. And we're happy, staff are happy to answer any questions in the interim that you might have about that report. We will, because we're following the municipal Class CA process, following council endorsement, we will publish what's referred to as a notice of study completion, and then the project will be put on the public record for a 45-day review period in accordance with that process, and it will be open for public comment during that time. At the end of the 45-day review period, the project is complete and it's been finalized, so we anticipate that'll be in the August timeframe. And this is an important study that will serve as input to other studies, such as the DC background study. Thank you very much. And we are happy to answer any questions that you have at this time.
Thank you, Ryan. Councillor Aypa.
Thank you. Through you, sir. That was really interesting. I have one quick comment and two quick questions. The comment is, I love the idea of going in and taking a look at the State of the Union as it is now. Councillor Jefferson and I had a chance to see a pipe that was under the road right beside the falls. We saw that the other day. And honestly, it was borderline shocking at how bad it was. And I'm just really glad we did what we did when we did it. I'm glad we got a chance to see that our team did the work when they did. So let's take a look and see where we're at. The question is, I hear you saying that you prefer the CIS over the MBR, just easier for me to use those acronyms. I guess my concern would be, in another 25 years, will the CIS system be too outdated in that this new one is being offered? Is that going to become the new popular one? And will it be more difficult for us to update and accommodate? Then we're left changing two systems as opposed to one. Although I understand the challenge of having both simultaneously, I'm curious about that. And I'll give you the second question when you answer that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Aypa. So through the mayor, so I'll start answering that question. I might turn it over to John to provide a more technical response. But my understanding is that CAS, it really is a proven technology. It's kind of the standard for treatment in municipal wastewater systems. It's been around for a long time. It works very well. It's very predictable. And this is the way that our plants function currently. So we're familiar with it. We know how to operate these types of plants. I don't think there's a risk in terms of the technology, as you say, becoming outdated, because as I say, it is a proven technology. And then maybe, John, I'll turn it over to you if you have more thoughts on that one.
Sure. The one thing you're doing with the CAS is that you're building a whole bunch of new tanks, and a lot of the newer types of treatment systems, basically revolve around putting things in tanks full of sewage or treated water or water that's under treatment. So I think, you know, when we looked at both, there's a lot of other technologies that, you know, you could use now, but if you build more tankage now with the CAS, what it does is it will allow you to have that tankage, and with the way technology is improving, to find a solution, you know, 25 years from now. I mean, the other issue there too is you should be doing these master plans every 5 years. So every 5 years you're updating this, you're focusing on what it is. So really there's going to be sort of 2 more kicks at the can probably between now and when you actually have to start, you know, building an expanded plant. So that's another 5 or 10 years of more technology. So I think there's lots. I wouldn't be too worried about that. I think like we've taken conventional activated plants and, you know, in certain tanks, put certain treatment modules in them to improve efficiency and to get more flow through them and all that stuff. And as I said, there's no point in going for really, you know, cool and crazy thing now. Let's wait till you actually need it. The other thing too is when we're looking at, like, the master plan are only recommendations. When you're the first phase, when you actually do implement this project, you will do a standalone Schedule C class environmental assessment where the consultant that you hire with the township staff will go through and they will consider all of your options. So what we're saying now is, I mean, as you can see, the capital costing is pretty close, but you know, but right now the operations costs, we recommend thinking of CAS, but it's just a recommendation and it's not something you have to worry about, I think, for 10 years. You just have to keep your mind on it.
Thank you so much. The other question is probably easier to answer around, you're asking residents to disconnect. What does that mean, and where do we disconnect to?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. Very great question. So through the mayor, so it's these are like sump pumps. So it's where you have stormwater essentially that's draining around the foundation, and then the sump pump is getting that water away from your basement. So it's groundwater or stormwater, and the older building practice would be that those sump pump outlets would drain to the sanitary sewer, so to the wastewater, and that's because maybe at that time there were no storm sewers, or you know, people didn't want them draining on their property. So when that, you know, essentially clean water, groundwater, stormwater goes into the sanitary sewer system, it then goes to the wastewater treatment plant and then gets treated with all of the other water. So we want to disconnect those types of drainage systems because that's extra water we're getting at the wastewater treatment plant that we're having to then treat, that otherwise wouldn't have to be treated. It's just clean storm water. So when we say disconnect, and it would be a voluntary program, it wouldn't be forced, and that's why we were looking for some money to kind of incentivize homeowners to actually complete those disconnections. And it could be like viewed as like a grant program where, you know, the cost of the disconnection is reimbursed by the township. You're welcome.
Councillor MacDonald.
Through you, Mayor Waters, I like everything that you're saying there. I'm going to add on the cost of all this. I know we'll be talking about DC charges and you're looking at that. Are we looking at any federal grants, wastewater grants, up the road for this type of big need? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor MacDonald. I'll perhaps start through the mayor and then I'll pass it over to Colin, but I think we're always looking at grant opportunities, and what this long-term study does, it positions us well for applying for those types of grant opportunities because now we have a plan and we have kind of a cost attached to it. Yeah, Colin, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, thanks, Adam. Yeah, I would just add, I think there was a recent grant program, the Housing Enabling Water Systems Fund. And in the list of successful applications, there was a lot of kind of wastewater facility expansions. So certainly, obviously, we're not ready for those grant applications now, but when the time comes, we advance our studies, we're getting closer to detailed design. You know, that's the time when we can start seeing what opportunities are available at that time.
Perfect. Thank you. It goes hand in hand with building housing. So
absolutely.
Thanks.
Yes, Councillor Walton.
Thank you, Mayor Waters, and thank you to the team. It's an excellent job. It's a really good report and really thorough. So that was really interesting to read. Not that I read the whole thing yet. Summary. Thank you for the summary. So I just wanted to be clear in terms of planning for 2051 is based kind of aligning with OPA 126. And then with the map, I see over on my side of the township on the east side of Fergus, it basically stops at the east edge, kind of by be Anderson Street probably, first line. Yeah. So there was no discussion at any point in time in terms of taking water and wastewater infrastructure further east towards Bellwood, was there? That would not be included within this study. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Wilton. Through the mayor, no. So we were only considering what was in OPA 126 through this study. So we're only servicing those lands that were included in OPA 126.
Any other further comments or questions from council? There were a couple of numbers that were really kind of struck me, and I think it's maybe worth repeating for not only for council but the community. So 121 kilometers of waste water main, and 105 kilometers of wastewater. So when we have, you see those types of workings going on in the community, there's a lot of pipe under the ground and more to come. But there's a lot of monitoring that goes on, and that is a lot of length of pipe. So that's just, if you keep in mind, we're talking hundreds of kilometers of pipe. So anyways, thank you very much for your presentation, and I'll read the recommendation. That the Council of Township of Central Wellington receive for information report IS 2025-18 Central Wellington Water and Wastewater Servicing Master Plan Preliminary Preferred Alternative. I do have a mover for that, Councillor Wilton, seconder on that, Councillor Evoy. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? So moved. Well, thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you, John. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Adam. So item 8.3, recreation priority registration, and we have Bruce Parkin to come to speak to that. Welcome, Bruce.
Slideshow there coming up. Thank you. Good evening. I'm here this evening to present the proposed priority recreation registration policy for your consideration. This presentation outlines the background, implementation plan, and next steps for this initiative. The township is experiencing unprecedented demand for certain recreation programs such as swimming lessons, day camp, shinny hockey, and pickleball. Council previously directed staff to develop a priority registration policy, and today's staff are asking Council to adopt this proposed policy. The proposed priority recreation registration policy prioritizes township residents and taxpayers by providing them with early access to program registration. While the policy emphasizes resident access, non-resident participation is still encouraged. In most cases, capacity and programs will still remain available, though space may be in less popular time slots or at less preferred locations. To support the integrity of the priority recreation registration policy, staff will conduct periodic audits. Audits may involve verifying residency or reviewing registration data. Staff will investigate complaints that arise and take appropriate action. Should disciplinary measures be taken, the township's R-zone, respect and responsibility policy will be followed to ensure fairness and consistency. The policy will be implemented using a staggered rollout to allow for monitoring and adjustment as needed. Staff plan to begin with pickleball in August 2025, followed by fall swimming lessons with a registration in August 2025, shinny hockey in October, and finally our day camp programs in March 2026. The phased approach allows staff time to assess training, communication, and public education efforts. A series of steps will need to be taken prior to the implementation of the priority recreation registration policy. The R-Zone Respect and Responsibility Policy is a council-approved document that was approved in 2007. The policy is used regularly by the community services staff, and the policy is still relevant and effective. However, some housekeeping updates are needed. Attached to the council report is an updated policy and also a red-lined policy to demonstrate changes that were made to the 2007 policy. The request is for council to approve the revised Township R-Zone Respect and Responsibility Policy. An additional report, COR 2025-27 on this council agenda is a request to amend the Township's fees and charges bylaw to include a new fee related to the revised Township R-Zone policy. The Township's registration software can verify residency through postal codes. While this feature has not been utilized by the Township previously, it can be activated without incurring any additional costs. Township customer service staff will be trained to support the public with account setup, address verification, and general inquiries regarding this new policy. A robust communication campaign will be launched in July. Our residents will be encouraged to confirm their account and address details in the registration software system. Thank you. That concludes the presentation.
Thank you, Bruce. Comments or questions for Bruce? Councillor Addams.
Thank you, through you. Just a quick comment. I just want to thank staff for bringing this report forward. I know it was kind of discussed and it was an item that was brought up by this council to try to find ways to prioritize like our residents. And I think, like you said, it may not be 100% and exact, so may be able to get through, but I think it's kind of capturing the essence of everything we were looking for. So I appreciate just all the time and solution that you brought forward. Thank you.
Councillor Jefferson.
Thank you, Mayor Waters. Just a quick question. Was the R-Zone, like the updated R-Zone, was that taken to the DEI committee for them to look at?
Through you, Mayor. No, it did not go to DEI. We took it to the Healthy Community Advisory Committee.
Councillor MacDonald.
Through you, Mayor Waters. I agree with Councillor Addams. Thank you for listening. This is great. I have gone through booking pickleball, and it's the Great Canadian Race. So I think this will be helpful in my endeavor to book pickleball. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions for Bruce? Okay, thank you, Bruce. I'll read the recommendation that the Council of Township of Centre Wellington approve the Recreation Priority Registration Policy as presented in Council Report CS 2025-09, and that Council approve the revised Township R-Zone Respect and Responsibility Policy CS 25001 as presented in Council Report CS 2025-09. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Craddock, seconder on that. Councillor Wilton, all those in favor? Oh, any comments or questions? No. Okay, all those in favor? So moved. Thank you. Let's move down to item 8.4, new Township Operations Center update, guaranteed maximum price contract award. Hello, Colin. And I see Brandon coming here as well.
Going to be a team effort this evening, but good evening, Mayor Waters and members of council. I'm very pleased to be here this evening along with the project team for the Operations Center to present the Guaranteed Maximum Price Contract Award for the project and also outline the next steps in terms of the financial strategy for the construction phase. So just to start things off, I just thought I'd highlight the project pillars that have served again as the guiding principles for the Operations Center throughout the project. And really, this is the foundation that we've kind of built this project around. So minimizing greenhouse gas emissions and making sure we have a model site for low impact development, water efficiency and conservation. We're ensuring that we're protecting our community source of drinking water from impacts of de-icing salts and stormwater runoff through state-of-the-art stormwater management. We're preserving and adding to the township's forest canopy through the protection and preservation of the existing arboretum and a significant number of planned tree plantings throughout the property. The project includes community gardens, an extensive on-site trail network, bike racks and storage, and a fairly extensive green space on the north side of the property. And this facility will also help us maintain our existing levels of service as our community grows. And, as council is aware, a number of departments will be housed at the new operations center. So public works, planning and development, engineering, source water protection, water services, yes, will all be housed at the operations center and ready to serve our growing community. And obviously, the safety is a primary concern, and we are improving safety for both the visitors and staff working there. We're separating the areas where heavy equipment operate and where the public and staff kind of enter and exit the building. This facility is going to be fully AODA compliant, and that has been a cornerstone of the design, including kind of proper washrooms and change room layouts, accessible meeting room space, training facilities, and a one window approach for customer service. And we also have the making sure that the financial strategy really minimizes the burn on the tax base. So as council is aware, a large portion of the funding is coming through development charges, and what we call kind of non-growth, which would be typically tax funded, is being funded through the sale of 5 different properties. So that's good news. So I don't want to steal any of the thunder from Brandon's and everyone else's presentation, but I will introduce the project team that's here today. So we have Brandon Buehler, our Operations Center Project Manager, Martin Tamlin, Climate Change Coordinator, and Adam Gilmore, Manager of Engineering. Adam McNabb's going to provide an overview of the financing strategy, and way back in the corner, kind of hiding, is Jay Homewood from Ball Construction. So Jay's, we've been working closely with Jay. Jay's putting together work packages and tendering out kind of all the sub trades for the project, and just walking us through the design process with the architect RDH. And so Jay's available after the presentation as well to answer questions. So I think with that, I'll invite Brandon up to the podium here to walk through the presentation for council.
Thanks, Colin, and thanks, Mayor and Council, for having us here tonight. I'm really excited to be here at this major milestone to present an update and move forward with the project. So the purpose of this report and presentation is to provide an update on the following items: the works that we have completed to date on site, the sustainability and green building features that have been incorporated into the detailed design, grant funding opportunities, solar panel options that are being considered, and present the guaranteed maximum price and overall construction budget, and seek council's approval to proceed with construction. So the works that have been completed to date include the tree removals. We've removed a total of 125 trees, of which 40% of those were classified as being in fair to poor condition. We plan to plant 250 new trees as part of the project development, which includes a reforestation area up by the stormwater management pond that will be established through a community planting program. overall, 40% of the site will consist of green space, which includes the tree plantings, community gardens, a trail network, vegetated swales, and the stormwater management pond. And the image in front of you kind of highlights that in green. Also completed to date is the demolition of the existing barns and outbuildings that were on site. Most of the building materials that was generated from the demolition have either been repurposed or recycled, which is great, and some of which are going to be utilized within the project as well. And the sustainability and green building features that we've been able to incorporate into the design and construction of the site will be the landscaping and low impact development, tree protection and conservation, naturalized stormwater management area, rainwater harvesting for reuse, solar panels, electric vehicle charging stations, sustainable building materials, and reducing the use of natural gas on site. The project team was fortunate to participate in what's called the Savings by Design workshop offered by Enbridge Gas, where a panel of sustainability professionals provided recommendations to improve the facility design and overall efficiency of the building. So through this workshop, the following improvements were incorporated into our facility. We were able to convert the hot water heaters from natural gas to a hybrid electric heat pump system. We also increased the wall insulation thickness from 5 inches to 6 inches. We also added insulation to the foundation walls, and we reduced the number of windows that was originally proposed and included a higher performing type of glass in all the windows. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Martin to go over the grant funding and solar options.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So when we were looking at the project, it didn't qualify for the whole capital build because it wasn't a community building. So we looked at the kind of different elements, sustainable elements within that building as well, in which we could apply for funds and incentives to help with costs. So with that, because we're going to include the EV supply equipment, basically the chargers for public staff and fleet vehicles, I'm in the process of applying to the Municipal electrification fund, which can help offset those costs. The kind of a lot of the FCM grants are kind of a grant loan mix. So there's a kind of a 15% grant aspect of it, which would basically cover the infrastructure for allowing for the charging of vehicles, and then as part of this work as well, the prerequisite is producing a feasibility study is really taking an in-depth look at what our fleet currently exists and where the opportunities are based on operational needs and utilization of vehicles, etc. And so in my work and working with other departments, we've come up with a suggested segment of vehicles, just like Judy right now. And so the grant portion will cover the infrastructure, and the operational savings on the vehicles themselves will basically pay for themselves within their life cycle. So that's very promising numbers as far as our transition. Which one was that? Thank you. So also working with VCT, they do a lot of solar installations in the region. I went to visit Evolve 1, which is a large building with solar canopies and other stuff. And so we looked at kind of the modeling for our site for using on the roof, or even using a car canopy system. And here are some examples of what we could look at. And there's some pros and cons surrounded by each. A load displacement. There's funding right now for 50% funding on solar and battery installations on our projects, but load displacement just means kind of reducing the stress on the grid. It means we can't store that energy or have excess energy. So it would be really quite an undersized system that you basically use during the day when the sun's out. Our office or we use that on weekends. There's lots of sun. We're not really using the energy. So for other facilities where there's constant need for energy 7 days a week, there might be an option. Net metering works better for us, so we can then upsize the entire design, and then during those months where there's lots and lots of energy, we can store that and actually offset our costs during the winter. So that's really kind of a preferred way of going. There is a hybrid mix of that. And as far as the financial aspects of it, we can front the money ourselves, and then we would gain the maximum returns. And it's kind of looking around almost like a $1.5 million actually return on our investment over that time period. But also, if needed, there's a power purchase agreement where ownership goes to someone else, and then we buy subsidized electricity, also with some great returns as well over that period. And that's, I think, as far as the resolution, I think you'll talk about that, Colin, right? Okay. Any questions?
Addendums. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, so just in terms of where we're going with solar, so we are still evaluating those options that Martin highlighted. We will be coming back to council with a recommendation on a preferred option for solar. The approach we've taken is that for now we're carrying $1.2 million in the total project budget for the implementation of a solar system. That's what we think the kind of the highest level of capital funding would be. And then when we return with the recommendation, we might adjust that number accordingly based on the option that we recommend. Oops. Okay, so this is going to be a made in Canada facility, we're proud to say. So a lot of the materials have been sourced from Canadian suppliers and are actually made in Canada. Examples include pre-engineered building frames, insulated wall panels, doors and framing, brick cladding, concrete, asphalt, a large portion of the millwork and finishes in the building. These products are all going to be made and sourced in Canada. There are some specialty items like some of the mechanical equipment and electrical equipment that unfortunately are only manufactured in the United States and had to be sourced from the United States. But I would say predominantly this is really a made in Canada facility with a lot of the materials being sourced in Canada. So value engineering is a process of trying to look for savings on a project without having to sacrifice on the scope and function of the facility. So the team went through a really detailed value engineering exercise, and we were able to achieve significant savings on the project through that value engineering. So some examples were modifying the site layout to reduce the amount of imported fill needed, paving only areas that are going to be used for phase one and experience significant traffic, and leaving the rest of the site as granular material. Configuring site servicing to minimize the amount of materials needed. This was a really big one. We were able to source about 10,000 cubic meters of clean fill from local residential developments, hence not having to pay for that clean fill for the site. And then the excess topsoil generated on site will predominantly be reused on site to fill areas that are going to be naturalized. So the tree planting area near the stormwater management pond, there's no need for structural fill in that area. We can use topsoil. So we'll be reusing the topsoil that already exists on site. So with the value engineering, we're able to reduce the capital cost of the project by approximately $6 million. So some of the key touch points that are still outstanding here. So pending approval of the guaranteed maximum price, the total and the total construction budget. Construction is scheduled to commence in mid-June. We've tentatively planned a groundbreaking ceremony for the project on June 16th. which coincides with the next council meeting. Staff will report back, as I mentioned, to council with a recommendation on the solar panel options this summer. And during construction, pending approval of the project, we would be providing monthly updates to council on progress. And the project would be completed in the December 2026 timeframe. So here's the big reveal slide, the guaranteed maximum price. So the guaranteed maximum price was prepared by Ball Construction, our design builder. So there was a competitive bidding process for the major work packages that was coordinated by Ball and done through the township. And so based on all of that competitive tendering, the guaranteed maximum price for the project is $25.7 million. And that includes all the cost to project manage, build, furnish, and commission the new operations center. So we have an existing contract with Ball, our design build contract, and there's a clause in the contract that states that once the township and Ball have agreed to a guaranteed maximum price, we can write a change order to the contract, and then the project proceeds to construction. So pending council's endorsement of the report recommendations this evening, that would authorize staff to negotiate that change order and have the project proceed to construction. So when we were last here presenting the Class C estimate, we presented a cost of $34.5 million, and obviously the guaranteed maximum price is quite a bit lower than that. So how do we explain the difference? Well, Class C estimates to have an accuracy of 15 to 20%. So there's some contingency that was worked into the Class C. I also mentioned this value engineering exercise we went through, saving approximately $6 million. And we've been told by our design builder that looking at the pricing we received through that competitive process, we did get pricing that was quite competitive and quite good. So we're confident that the prices that we received are, we're competitive in this market and are, perhaps a bit lower than they were a couple of years ago. There are some other costs for the project, and we're referring to these as outside costs. So these are in addition to the guaranteed maximum price. And so these include public works operation equipment purchases, which are mostly attributed to us establishing a licensed mechanic shop. That's $300,000. IT equipment and fiber network extension costs, $100,000. External hydro utility servicing costs, $150,000. Fees for township project management, $200,000. And I mentioned the solar panel installation provision that we're carrying of $1.2 million. Add all this up, and we have a total, including non-rebate HST, we have a total project budget of $28.2 million. And I'm going to turn it over to Adam McNabb to speak to the financial strategy for the project.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. Through you, Mayor Waters, in terms of the financial strategy associated with the construction of the Operations Center, little has changed from November of last year. But yeah, at a high level, as previously been the case, the growth components continue to be funded through development charges, specifically debt, which will be serviced through development charge proceeds. The non-growth components are to be serviced through a combination of reserve and reserve fund proceeds from surplus land sales that will be considered upon the commissioning of the new facility. Growth-related debt is anticipated to be in the vicinity of $20.4 million, which is down from $26 million when we spoke in November of last year. And that will be serviced through annual debt payments approximating $1.6 million. Again, those annual debt payments down from approximately the $2 million mark last year. Recommendation as it pertains to the debt issue with the resolution and the report you're seeing tonight, this evening, in the vicinity of $33.9 million includes other debt requirements for the proposed operations facility construction, as well as other projects that have been approved for debt funding, inclusive of water supply strategy phase 2, new well area investigations and acquisitions, land acquired for the Fergus Sportsplex property expansion. So with all of those, staff will return to council at a future meeting to present the necessary financing strategy around that, the debt policy, and any associated bylaws associated with that debt issue at that time. Reserve fund contributions will be provided from the Building Code Reserve Fund and the Economic Development Reserve Fund, with the remaining required funding being facilitated through the land sale proceeds, as we've heard about. When combined, we're looking to have expected proceeds in the vicinity of $8 million. And with the Ops Center construction, we're looking at about $5.4 million of those proceeds being dedicated to this project. So yeah, just on this slide, just a quick synopsis of the properties being considered for disposition upon the commissioning of this new facility. And that's effectively it from my perspective. And with that, I'll turn it over to Colin to do a little bit of a wrap up. Thank you.
All right, great. Thanks, Adam. So yeah, just to summarize, I just thought I'd kind of just go back to the council, the recommendation, and so really in summary, staff are seeking councillor authorization to award the GMP and proceed with construction with a completion date of December 2026. So that would be an opening date of December 2026. Investigate the solar power generation opportunities that Martin was speaking to and report back with a recommended option and financial analysis supporting that recommended option. We're looking for a council resolution to support a grant application for the EV charging stations that are on site. So both the on the public side and for the fleet side. And then finally adjust the capital forecast as recommended through this report. And as Adam stated, we'll be reporting back on the debt issuance and financing in the future. And I just want to remind council too, we're updating connectcw.ca with all the project information, the latest timelines, reports. We've got a fairly extensive FAQs document there now that we're updating. The monthly updates through construction will also be posted on ConnectCW as well. So it's a great kind of one-stop shop for lots of information on the project. So I think with that, yeah, we'd be happy to respond to any questions that council may have at this time. Thanks.
Thank you, Colin. Questions, comments? Councillor Wilton.
Thank you, Mayor Waters. And through you, great job, everybody. And I also want to commend Adam Gilmore because he has also been very politely answering all of my emails about the traffic calming in the northeast corner of Fergus. So appreciate you've been busy the last few days. No, good job on this. My question's really for Adam, McNabb, and Dan probably, and I sent this to you earlier today. Just curious, with Bill 17 likely coming into play and changes to Development Charges Act in Ontario, I'm just curious what our risk level is in terms of financing the debt through development charges, and if we need to be cautious about that or have a plan B in mind and anything along those lines. So thank you, Adam.
Through you, Mayor Waters. Yeah, well, Bill 17 did introduce a number of changes or proposed changes to the Development Charges Act. There's nothing in there that would suggest that there's an end of days for the ability to collect development charges, and certainly nothing that would preclude us from leveraging development charge proceeds to facilitate kind of the debt servicing payments. So from that perspective, I think we're still good. We do have other mechanisms in place to help kind of offset things should growth slow within the township. We have the ability to control our forecasting strategy in terms of utilization of DC charges for the facilitation of growth-related infrastructure projects. So we have a number of mechanisms to kind of shift things around within the forecast should things slow and still be able to service the debt. From a Bill 17 perspective, we have looked at what is being proposed, and there are some things, but nothing that would send off a number of alarm bells in terms of dramatic reductions right out of the gate should it come to pass.
Thank you. Just a quick follow-up. The one thing I noticed in Bill 17 was the deferral of payment of development charges until occupancy, which is a change. And I'm just curious if there wasn't a situation where housing, as we've seen recently, actually, things are approved, but they're just not being built and occupied. So I'm just curious if that particular change was concerning or if you still feel comfortable with the way workarounds you have.
No, thank you again. No, certainly from a cash flow perspective and those deferred payments, that we'll have to certainly temper that and see what the market is bringing in terms of, again, some of those other projects that will be DC funded. But I think we do have the mechanisms in place through our annual budgeting exercise to help temper some of that. Along with the deferral, we also have kind of the standardization of benefit to existing, which we've given consideration to, but we won't know what the lasting impacts are until they come to pass and we see what some of that legislation does prescribe.
Councillor MacDonald.
Through you, Mayor Waters. You have the contingency plan to sell off township properties. And right now the market is okay. It's not great. It's definitely better for a buyer than it is for a seller. So we don't know what the market will be like when you decide to sell these. You're estimating they're worth $8 million now, but that might not be the case when you actually sell them. So what contingencies are we putting in place in case there's a flux in those amounts?
I'll take a quick blush at that one, Councillor MacDonald. Yeah, of the proceeds in today's market, we're expecting proceeds to be in the vicinity of $8 million. However, the construction for the facility we're contemplating today would be only $5.4 million of that. So while we do have line of sight, there is some flexibility in terms of what the proceeds over what the anticipated cost would be for this particular project.
Councillor Evoy.
Thank you. Through you, sir. Thank you, Councillor Wilson. I was concerned about the same thing, given that the note was based on a 72% assumed growth. I think that was a safe question, so thanks for addressing it. I'm wondering about those properties. Have we considered, or are we going to consider keeping any of them for parks or parking, given that we are short of both and there's 5 properties there that are up?
Oh, thank you for the question, Councillor Evoy, and through the mayor. So just to clarify which properties are the 5, I think I'll just describe them. So we've got the 600 Glengarry Crescent site, so that's the Fergus shop existing. We're looking at severing off. I think it's a 14-acre site in total. We'll be severing off the front. I think it's around 2 or 3 acres, and then also the helipad that's next door. That's no longer required. So that's the one property, and 205 Queen Street, which is the former medical office, currently being used by Township. That's on Queen Street, just across from the old hospital, the old Groves Hospital. 101 Gregson Court is just across from the operations center. That kind of was, I guess, unlocked through this process, and 970 Garshore, kind of a similar situation there in the industrial park, and then the office that I work out of, 744 Wellington Road 21, the old Pilkington building. So that would be surplus as well. So I think we do have a disposition of surplus properties bylaw, and there's a whole process in there to kind of I'd say vet kind of which properties are sold off. And so these would we're kind of floating these as ideas, I think, at this point, but obviously there's a process in that bylaw that would come through council ultimately, and if there's a need at that time or leading up to that time, I think it's something that we as staff would consider at that time.
With regards to 205 Queen, so are we planning on, I know we've had several discussions about possible uses for that space. Are we more leaning to selling it than doing something with having our staff being able to use it, et cetera?
Yeah, through the mayor. So yeah, it would be surplus. Yeah, as part of this. So all the groups, HR would move back into this building. IT would be moving to the operations center, as well as we've got some engineering staff. Actually, that's where Brandon works out of in Martin, and source protection. They would move all into the new operations center. And our thinking now is that 205 Queen Street would become surplus and sold.
Councillor Walton.
Just a quick comment that I just wanted to thank the project team for all the efforts on the sustainability pieces, on the low impact development and the tree cover and all those elements that you've incorporated. So I really appreciate that you're continuing to look into grants for those and putting them into the design. So thank you.
Any other comments or yes, Councillor Adams.
Thank you, through you. Question about the outside cost, the township project management. Is that like extending contract, or is that, what would that entail?
Through the mayor. Councillor Adams. Yeah, great question. So, so the project management cost is basically, this is a funding mechanism for certain staff where kind of the salaries and benefits are funded through the capital projects that they work on, and so that's been the case here, where in this case is Brandon. So his salary benefits are funded through the project itself. Yeah.
Through Mayor Waters, and just to add to Colin's answer there, having dedicated project management experience dedicated to the operations center has resulted in millions of dollars in savings on the GMP. So I think that decision to put the project management dedicated to the project really benefited us in this situation.
Councillor Adams.
Thank you, through you. Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and all of the piece about the value engineering, and there was a lot of work done right there. And I am also very aware that we still have staff and like portables and stuff. So now I do have a question in terms of like what I'm going to call kind of outside of the building additional amenities, whether it be the timber pavilion or the greenhouse. Can somebody please remind me, the greenhouse, is that like in addition to what we already have, or is that looking to expand or enhance?
Brandon's going to respond to that question. Thanks.
Yes, thanks for the question, through you, Mayor Waters. That is in addition to what we have currently. The plan is to build these as two separate buildings that are actually connected, but two independent growing environments. However, the plan is the existing facilities that are at the Sportsplex now would be moved up to the operations center in the interim too, till they kind of reach the end of their service life. And then we'll see about potentially expanding the existing facilities then at that point.
Thank you for that. So as a follow-up to that, I'm just kind of wondering, much like we have done with the solar panels, if we look at like the timber pavilion, which is like an outdoor amenity, and the greenhouse, which I think combined would be nearly like $500,000 with those two items together. If we moved those out of like the GMP, and we also like put them kind of like we are looking at doing for the solar panels, where they're still in the overall funding, but would there be opportunities? I'm thinking, because these I'm seeing as kind of like non-core, but would there be opportunities to look at like community partnerships or grant fundings and stuff with these, and moving them out of the guaranteed maximum price?
Yeah, great question. And through you, Mayor Waters, I think as far as the greenhouses go, talking with the horticulturalists and staff there is a need for them immediately. The greenhouses that they have now aren't large enough to grow what they need to. So I think that is kind of a must from their perspective. The pavilion is certainly an option. We could defer that or put it as an allowance or keep it as an allowance if that's the direction that we want to go.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, Councillor Jefferson.
Thank you, Mayor Waters. I think it's more questions for clarification around the debt issue. So the recommendation is that we direct to investigate the total debt issue of $33.9 million, which is including other properties and other things that we've done. So that's our total debt that we are asking for. So are we still with that under the 15% that we talk about at budget time?
Yes, thank you for the question, Councillor Jefferson. Yeah, all of our debt that we've seen through the annual budgeting process takes into consideration that self-imposed 15% own source revenue ceiling in terms of servicing costs. So yes, they were still well within that in terms of the confines of that self-imposed 15% ceiling. And that was baked into the 2025 budget documents with the assumption that the debt issue for this particular facility plus the other outstanding unissued debt that kind of formulates that number that that's being contemplated this evening. That's all imposed in that, and we are still well within the threshold.
Okay, so when and if we come to sell the properties and we get the 5.4 million out of, or the expected 5.4 million to go, that's to go towards the debt. Like, how is that handled? Like, we receive that, we've already got the debt on the books. Is it like, do we do like a lump sum payment? Is it something that we just hold in reserves and then we just do, but then you're saying refinance it through the development charges? I'm just wondering how that all gets handled. Like, if it's something that would be able to remove the debt from our books when it's done, or is it something that we hold on to and then do it kind of annually where it comes off?
Thank you for the question again, and through you, Mayor Waters. No, they would be separate and distinct. The debt servicing costs would be strictly for the debt identified. We still require the proceeds of those land dispositions to offset the costs that are non-growth related in nature. So those would be directly from the proceeds to facilitate the construction costs of this particular facility.
Through Mayor Waters, just to clarify, the debt requirements are not including the funding required for selling the properties. If we sell the properties, that doesn't impact the debt number. The debt number is standalone from the sale of the properties. So we need the 5.4 million in sale of properties over and above the debt issuance to fund the operations center.
So then how is that, since we don't have that cash in hand, how are we financing that 5.4 million then if that's not included in the debt already?
It would be managed through our existing reserve areas, and we have strong cash positions within the organization as well, just in terms of operating capital to kind of bootstrap it, if you will. So we would leverage that and utilize own source revenues and funds available until such a time as the proceeds were kind of gathered, and then we would just offset that internally.
Councillor MacDonald.
I feel like you knew I was going to ask a question. Through you, Mayor Waters. So we're still focused on these properties. So that brings me to the next thing is that we're probably going to be discussing taxes coming up. And is any of this going to be impacting next year's tax that on a significant level that we might be surprised at?
No, thank you for the question, Councillor MacDonald, and through you, Mayor Waters. No, the construction of this operations facility is not to impact the levy whatsoever. Hence the utilization of debt facilitated or serviced through development charges, the utilization of existing reserves from both the building reserve and the ECDEV reserve, as well as the proceeds from the land sales. So the net impact on the tax levy would be zero.
Any other comments or questions from council? Well, I'd like to thank the two Adams, Ryan and John, or who else is on my list here? Colin, Brandon, Martin, and the two Adams. I'd like to thank you for that presentation. I'm going to read the recommendation. Recommendation that the Council Township of Central Wellington approves guaranteed maximum price and overall construction budget for the new operations center as outlined in report IS 2025-15 and authorize staff to reach an agreement with the design builder Ball Construction Limited on the guaranteed price, maximum price in the form of a change order to the existing design build contract, and that Council directs staff to proceed with construction of the new Township Operations Center with substantial completion anticipated by December 2026, and that Council directs staff to further investigate solar power generation opportunities for the site and report back to Council with a recommended option and financial analysis, and that Council directs staff to submit an application for grant funding through the Municipal Fleet Electrification Grant Fund offered by the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, FCM, to fund the cost of the proposed EV charging station electrification of the township existing vehicle fleet, and that the Council receive for information the staff recommendation regarding potential amendments to the capital forecast with respect to this project, and that Council directs staff to investigate the total debt issue of $33.9 million to be drawn as needed to satisfy the debt supported capital needs for the 2025 and 2026 calendar years, and return to Council with the necessary financing, debt policy, and any associated bylaws once established. Okay. Mover. Thank you, Councillor Wilton. Seconder on that while I take a break here. Councillor Jefferson, any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? So moved. Thank you very much. Thank you, staff, for that good report. And we'll move down to item 8.5, Central Wellington Communications 2024 results and 2025-26 work plan report from Adam McNabb.
Thank you, Mayor Waters. The report before Council is to provide Council with an update relative to the operations of Central Wellington Communications, which is wholly owned by the Township and provides net services necessary for the Township as it pertains to network connectivity, security, data backup, and disaster recovery. Jeff Vignier, President of CWC, is here this evening to provide Council with a brief synopsis of the company's structure, the network map, and some of the initiatives that CWC is currently involved in. And with your permission, Mayor Waters, I'll turn it over to Jeff.
Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you. I'm just going to go through a quick presentation. I know you guys are all busy. We'll just, yep, got it. So my agenda is going to cover a few things. We're going to go through a quick introduction, CWC, what we've been doing in 2024 and 2025, introduction to the company. Central Wellington Communications is a fiber optic network, interconnects all the township sites. CWC Fiber ensures that administration, infrastructure, community services, waste and wastewater have the necessary bandwidth and reliability connectivity. The fiber network supports several functions and services, including security, data backup, disaster recovery, uninterrupted business operations. Company structure is basically, it's solely owned by the Township of Central Wellington. Our directors are myself as president, Dan Wilson is a board member, Adam McNabb is secretary treasurer, Sean Waters is the board member, and Jennifer Adams is a board member as well. So we break down Central Wellington Communications in 4 parts. We do fiber, which basically is on poles today and underground. And as we move forward, we try to put it underground as much as possible. So any new constructions that come up, we try to build out or put the fiber underground at that point. Next would be pole replacements, and this is basically when CW Hydro or Hydro 1 basically comes in and replaces old poles. We put fiber onto new poles, move it over. And then we have our routine break fix where vehicles hit the fiber and we fix it, or animals basically eat it. So that's the easy part. So moving on, for 2024 is what we've done in 2024. So in 2024, we took advantage of East Mill Street construction, installed fiber into Bissell Park. We also took public Wi-Fi and security cameras to safeguard the township in that park too as well. It's one spot that we could never hit. It helps out with Wi-Fi for businesses, for the farmers market, and that can use it for POS systems and other things. So as we move forward, I think I jumped one, and we did. So Sportsplex was another one in 2024 where we did. So with all the events coming up in the Sportsplex in the fields, we basically put fiber covering all the fields at this point. So it's another incentive that we did. We put public Wi-Fi out there and then cameras to the washrooms and into the fields too as well to protect the assets of the township. So we get into our repairs. So our repairs consist of the fiber cuts, what we talked about, vehicles hitting the fiber on the poles, animals chewing in underground fiber, pole transfers, common for hydro, and CWC has to relocate them onto new poles. So these are one thing that we did. So expanding out to the green spaces. So we've noticed that downtown, we had RTO4 at one point come to us and talk about fiber in the downtown core. So we started doing that, and we noticed that more people were using our fiber and Wi-Fi at the time, and we started putting it into green spaces where people could relax and enjoy it. And we've noticed over the years that we've had about 28,000 people in 2024 use our Wi-Fi in public spaces. So it has been pretty good, and it's well worthwhile continuing green spaces for people to use it. So in 2025, it's been short-lived year so far, but we've started construction on St. David. We did the first phase, putting fiber underground, and we extended our fiber network down to the downtown core. And we've also prepped for the op center that's coming up with fiber. So we have fiber laying outside ready for the op center to go in. And our upgrades. So CWC is just not a fiber company. We also ensure protection of the township services. So CWC also has parallel internet connections. So we're all on it today. So we're with Hydro One on one and Whiteman's on the second provider, which gives us redundancy and reliability across the whole township. So we also protect the perimeter internet with state-of-the-art firewalls. So we also do security as well as fiber for the township. And over having the fiber over the last few years, we've did a little analysis, and having our own fiber is saving the township about $470,000 per year. So it's a good initiative to have and continue moving forward. And thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Questions, comments from council? I just see a lot of happy faces, Jeff.
Nice.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. I'll read the recommendation that the Council of Township of Centre Wellington receive a report, Core 2025-23 for information, and further that Council and the Township of Centre Wellington authorize the Mayor and Clerk to sign the resolution of shareholder on behalf of the Township. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Evoy, seconder on that. Councillor MacDonald, any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's so moved. Thank you. We'll move down to 8.6, Development Charge Deferral Agreement. And we have George coming to election. Welcome, George.
Thank you, Mayor Waters and members of council. The report before you is for Xanadu Homes. They're requesting a deferral of their township development charges for their proposed manufacturing expansion. They're planning to build a new facility. We've been working with them for the past 2 years in Elora, Salem for consolidating 3 locations in Kitchener-Waterloo and Centre Wellington to meet their current and future business needs. As you can see by the letter of support in the report, they're a family-owned business. They've been in business for over 10 years. They do manufacturing of both standard and specialized custom cabinet for home renovations, local, retail, and export. And the new facility is estimated around 21,929 square feet based on the existing site plan of both the building and the mezzanine, and is targeted for completion by the spring of 2026, and will result in 11 new jobs. which will increase export sales. As you can see, they have an export market to the Grand Cayman, New York, and Bermuda. With that in mind, the proposed development has received site plan approval, and we're just waiting for the application for the building permit, which is pending, which will finalize that actual square footage. It won't be more, if anything, it'll be slightly less, but it should be in that range. And that's the report you have before you.
Thanks, George. Questions or comments? Councillor MacDonald and then Councillor Aypa.
I am so happy to see this come forward because this is kind of a long time coming. I've been involved with connecting them with you, connecting them with our planning department, and stepping back and letting you guys figure it out. And just speaking with the company when they first opened here in Elora, they really were surprised, I think, with how well they would do and how well they would develop here. And so they made that decision to move here, to move their entire operations here. And from an economic development perspective, I'm certainly happy to have them here. So thank you for all that negotiation, George.
Thank you.
Councillor Aypa.
Thank you through you. Thanks, George. I have a question around the formula. So I absolutely love and support that we are making it easier for people to build and or expand. Is there a formula that we know that we would always say yes if someone's doing this? Is there a reason we wouldn't say no? I mean, I'm just wondering if it can be streamlined so that if you're building, you get this opportunity if you're growing or something like that, so they don't have to keep bringing it forth.
Through you, Mayor Waters.
Through Mayor Waters, staff thought the exact same thing. So as part of the development charge study we're doing this year, we're bringing forward a potential recommendation for council to support to streamline this very process.
Great, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, well, thank you, George, for that report. I'll read the recommendation. Recommendation that the Council of Township of Centre Wellington authorize the Managing Director of Corporate Services and Treasurer to execute a development charge deferral payment agreement between the Corporation of the Township of Centre Wellington and Sidious, I'm not quite sure if that's the right pronunciation, Holdings Limited, Xanadu Homes Limited, in substantially the same form as attached to report PLNN 2025-27. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Craddock, seconder on that. Councillor Adams. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's so moved. Thank you. Let's move down to fees and charges bylaw, and then we have Adam coming to the lectern again.
Thank you, Mayor Waters. The report before council now seeks endorsement of an amendment to the fees and charges bylaw to support the recommendations stemming from the report you've previously heard from the Manager of Recreation Programs as it pertains to priority registration. This amendment is highlighted in the report and is the only change being contemplated today from a fees and charges amendment standpoint, and I'm happy to field any questions that council may have.
Thank you, Adam. Comments, questions? Councillor Wilton.
Thank you, Mayor Waters. I just was looking at the spreadsheet that was attached, and it looks like it's the same as it was before when I sent you the email this morning, but the planning fees looking different.
I have to look into that. I believe it had been updated in terms of the agenda, and the attachment had been
Maybe it's
updated.
just that mine hasn't refreshed or something.
Yes.
Let's update it.
Okay, it's just mine didn't update. That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments, questions that way? Okay, thank you, Adam. I'll read the recommendation. A recommendation that the Council Township of Centre Wellington approve an amendment to the Township Fees and Charges Bylaw as outlined in Report Core 2025-27, and that the bylaw be signed by the Mayor Clerk with respect to the amendment. Do we have a mover for that? Councillor Craddock, seconder on that. Councillor Jefferson, any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? That is so moved. Thank you. Item number 8.8, request for tender 1225 well RPH1 chlorine storage room upgrades. Adam.
Yep. Thank you, Mayor Waters. This report provides recommendations and seeks council approval for award of request for tender 12-25 regarding well FPH1 chlorine storage room upgrades. Recommendations are that the council authorize the award for request for tender 12-25 to Xterra Construction, Inc. at a contract price of $236,141.53, excluding HST, and that the project funding be revised to facilitate the award. The RFT was issued in accordance with the township's purchasing procurement bylaw. There were 23 registered plan takers, and the township received 3 responses. Based on the tender results, the total project is $113,675.62 over budget allocations if awarded based on the staff recommendation. And should council be supportive, the recommended shortfall would be funded from the Water Capital Reserve. With that, I'm happy to field any questions that council may have.
Thank you, Adam. Comments, questions from council? Okay. Thank you for that. I'll read the recommendation. The Council of Township of Centre Wellington award request for tender 1225 regarding the well FPH1 chlorine storage room upgrades to Xterra Construction, Inc. at a contract price of $236,141.53, excluding HST, and that the project funding be updated as shown in Report Core 2025-24, dated 26 May 2025. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Wilton, seconder on that. Councillor Craddock. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? So moved. We move down to request for tender 3325 Colborne Street reconstruction.
Thank you, Mayor Waters. This report provides recommendations and seeks council approval for award of request for tender 33-25 regarding the construction of Colborne Street, Elora. Recommendations are that council authorize the award of request for tender 33-25 to Drexler Construction Limited at a contract price of $2,199,154.08. This includes contingency but excludes HST. We also recommend that the project funding be revised to facilitate the award. The RFT was also issued in accordance with the township's purchasing procurement bylaw. There were 31 registered plan takers, and the township did receive 6 responses to this request for tender. And while within budgeted amounts, the sources of funding have been altered to coincide with the current realities of this project. When originally budgeted, it was assumed that this road segment of Colborne would be subject to a service financing agreement. And that would be for the growth-related portion of the roads project. However, the SFA, when executed, was limited to the upsiding the sanitary service only. And as such, the funding has been adjusted to reduce the SFA developer contribution and allocate roads DC reserve funds to the growth-related roads portion of this project. Staff have reviewed and noted that capacity exists within the current DC reserve balances to facilitate this adjustment, and I'm happy to field any questions that council may have.
Thank you. Adam, comments, questions? Councillor MacDonald.
Through you, Mayor Waters, I apologize if I'm incorrect. Did we apply for a grant for this one? We did not. I feel like there was one we discussed. No? Different section of Colborne. Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, questions from council? Okay. I'll read the recommendation that the Council of Township of Centre Wellington award request for tender 3325 regarding reconstruction of Colborne Street, Elora, to Drexler Construction Limited at a contract price of $2,199,154.08. Including contingency, excluding HST, and that the project funding be updated as shown in Report Core 2025-26 dated 26 May 2025. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Wilton, seconder on that. Councillor Evoy. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? So moved. We're at paid parking. So do we want to have just a quick break or? Yeah, we also could have a little quick break. How about a 3-minute or one? Okay. Okay. So where's the thing I need to? Yeah. Okay. Okay. We could just continue on. Where's the motion on,
Curfew.
Okay.
I've got a bunch of them.
you got it. Okay.
I wasn't very optimistic.
Okay, so I'll read this. I got to read this first. That the Council of Township of Center Wellington, in accordance with Section 7.7A, Procedure Bylaw 2024-65, having reached the 3-hour maximum for the County Council, or sorry, Freudian slip.
Freudian, I don't think.
We have had those kind of meetings. Anyways, a maximum of council meeting, hereby extend the meeting curfew by an hour to an hour. So that would be an hour or two, but that would be till 10 p.m. Okay, do we have a mover for that? Councillor Craddock, seconder on that. Councillor Wilton, any further comments or no? Seeing none, all those in favor? So moved. Do you guys want a 3-minute break? Okay. Yep.
All that tea.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. We're going to go down to another important topic for our community, 8.1 paid parking program. And Dan Wilson is at the lectern.
Thank you, Mayor Waters. Okay, my presentation is respect to implementation of paid parking. As you know, we retained RJ Birdside in 2023 to complete a municipal downtown parking strategy for both Fergus and Elora downtowns. This was completed in 2024 and approved by council. The approach, more or less, is looking at the need for more parking supply, and there's references to parking garages, joint use agreements, and there's reference to optimizing existing parking supply, which is a lot of the work we've been doing already, plus some additional items, reconfiguring existing supply, parking enforcement, time limits, paid parking, which we're talking about today, wayfinding, and alternate travel methods such as the shuttle and active transportation. We do have high utilization rates of our parking spots, especially in Elora. And this does lead to a number of challenges: difficulty finding parking, increased congestion, reduced accessibility, heightened illegal parking, negative perceptions about the town and tourism, economic setbacks for local businesses, and various environmental impacts. Just going to show you briefly a few maps from the strategy itself. This is a utilization map for Elora during the week. The red in the central areas indicates very high utilization of the parking spots during the week. And the second one is Elora on the weekend, and a lot more red during the weekend, where we're at, or in some cases above 100% utilization of parking spaces because of a number of things, including tourism. Fergus is not quite as red. This is during the week. St. Andrew Street is orange, and the major lots on Provost and in by the library are red and orange. But if you move a block either east or west or north or south of that, then the utilization rate becomes more green, which is a lower level of utilization. And then if you go to Fergus on weekends, slightly higher utilization, still very high on St. Andrew Street and the neighboring lots, parking lots. But again, if you move a block north or south, then you typically find parking. So the downtown parking strategy does suggest paid parking as an effective tool to assist in this situation, assisting with demand management, where it can help with turnover, discouraging long-term parking in high demand areas, and helping sort of push parking to low demand areas. It helps reduce congestion. It supports alternate approaches to travel, such as active transportation modes. And it does generate revenue that can be used not only for parking infrastructure, but various transportation initiatives and other community benefits. And we can tailor that strategy if and when paid parking is approved by council. One interesting comment from our current parking enforcers: tourists come to town, especially in Elora, and they ask where they can pay for parking and get a little bit uncomfortable when they are told that parking is free, because they expect to pay and feel more comfortable if they've paid for their spot. We did do a survey last year, and these were the three different options that were generated through the parking strategy. Option one was do not implement paid parking, maintain the 3-hour enforcement and other enforcement matters, which is what we're continuing to do now 12 months of the year, which means that if we need capital dollars for any type of parking, whether it's infrastructure, acquisition of land, etc., we'll try to apply for grants, but it's more or less on the property tax base in that situation to fund parking initiatives. Option 2 was paid parking under the same scenarios where everybody pays, both township residents and visitors. And option 3 was paid parking where residents park for free, township residents park for free, and visitors pay for parking. So the survey results, we had this posted on Connect CW. We attended our open houses and had 684 responses. The top vote was option 3, which was paid parking for visitors only, 65.94%, or 451 responses. Option 2 was no paid parking, 27%, or 186 responses. And last place was paid parking for everybody, which was 6.87%, or 47 responses. Another few questions that were added to the survey. The first 2 were about the desire to have multi-level parking structures in both Fergus and Elora, and really it was split on both Fergus and Elora. For Elora, 57% said yes, they're a good idea, 43% said no, and in Fergus, 49% said it was a good idea, and 51% said it was not a good idea. When asked the question how revenue should be generated to pay for a parking structure if we were to put one in place, 61% said it should be through paid parking revenues, 25% were unsure, and 13% said property taxes. We did other engagement other than the survey. We talked to both BIAs. With Elora BIA, we talked to the previous executive, which I'm calling pre-December 2024. They were generally supportive of paid parking in downtown Elora. We did do a presentation to the new executive in the Elora BIA, which is post-December 2024. Did the presentation and asked for feedback, and no feedback was given at the time. Fergus BIA, we did a presentation to them as well. They feel that paid parking is not the right solution for Fergus, not as tourist driven as Elora is, but would still like to work with the township to assist in trying to generate higher turnover of spots in the downtown, particularly on St. Andrew Street. We did a presentation to Economic Prosperity and Growth. The general expression was support for what we're calling phase 1 of the program, and I'll outline that in a second. Some of their other key points, we should ensure that residents park for free, clarify how this will be communicated effectively to the public, and priority should be given to expanding the parking supply and meeting increased demand while maintaining accessibility. That should be the overall goal of the parking program. So after all of this engagement with the public and the BIAs and the advisory committee, we are recommending a phased approach to parking, which means we are not recommending a full paid parking program at this time. We're just recommending implementing in downtown Elora at this time. And any future decisions on paid parking would be a separate discussion with council. But for now, we're recommending downtown Elora. We're recommending 2 zones. Zone 1 is where we're looking at high turnover, which would maintain a 3-hour time limit but be paid. Zone 2 is longer term parking but also paid. And our current bylaws allow people to park for up to 24 hours, so you can call Zone 2 paid parking up to 24 hours. Our recommended rates at this time, and this is something we need to verify through a little bit further detailed analysis if council commits to paid parking, is that we charge $3 an hour in both zones. For Zone 2, because you can park for longer periods of time, the daily maximum would be $15. And it would be enforced 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. daily. Additional features, we've heard suggestions from many different areas that Centre Wellington residents should park for free. So we are recommending that Centre Wellington residents park for free. They still have to follow the timing descriptions. So 3 hours in zone 1, 24 hours in zone 2. They still have to follow the Highway Traffic Act in terms of where they park and how they park. So if you're parking in an accessible spot and you're not supposed to, you're still going to get a ticket even though you're a resident. But you can park following the rules for free in both zones. And then we would introduce parking permits it's basically for non-residents that have to park more longer term in the downtown. And right now we're proposing about $125 a month, which if you do the math, if you're downtown for 8 hours a day, you're not paying $3 an hour, you're paying $125 a month, and it's a significant discount for the non-residents that have to be in the downtowns. Timing, if we get approval to move to implementation tonight, we would try to get paid parking in place by fall of this year. It's too late at this point to get this in place for summer of 2025. This is the proposed map of downtown Fergus. We would maintain the enforcement practices in Fergus that we've had in the past. Like I said before, no paid parking requirements in Fergus. You'll see from the bylaw that was brought to council a few meetings ago that we did slightly extend the 3-hour zone to the east on St. Andrew Street East to accommodate, I believe it's east of Gallery Street is what we added in. So that would be included in the enforcement zone, but we'd continue the enforcement practices in Fergus without the paid parking. And this is the Elora map showing basically zone 1 and zone 2. Zone 1, which is the high turnover area, maximum 3 hours, is shown in red, which is predominantly Metcalf, Mill Street, Price Street, Church Street, and then around MacDonald Square. And then we tried to do a buffer around that being zone 2, where we're trying to have people park more longer term at that point in time. So we've presented 2 options to council. Option 1 is to authorize staff to initiate downtown paid parking in Elora and to delegate authority to the Managing Director of Corporate Services and Treasurer to negotiate and execute a contract with Alpha Solutions to provide the implementation and the services. And we would be back to council with a more detailed analysis of what this paid parking program would look like prior to full implementation. Option 2 is to not implement paid parking at this time and defer the decision to a future date. So with that, I would be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Dan, for that. Let's start. Councillor MacDonald.
Through you, Mayor Waters. Am I noticing more wheelchair spots on the map? They're on there. I noticed one up by the library. I got the nod. I noticed one up by the library.
Yes.
And I see one down on, so that's one on East Mill. I'd like to see another one in East Mill. I'm just going to ask that. Our veterans would be very happy. I think they will be very happy with these extra spots, but and I just have one more question, Mayor Waters, through you. There's a daycare where it lists on Getty Street 67422. There's a daycare, and I've had some parents reach out to me. Could we do a 15-minute loading zone, drop off, pickup zone there? It's very difficult for them to pick up their children and drop them off, is the feedback I'm getting. And they only reached out recently, so I apologize for not bringing it sooner.
No problem. No, thanks for the questions, Councillor MacDonald, and through the mayor. So, yes, it's correct. Staff are proposing 2 additional accessible locations. So we have kind of the 15-minute zone there on East Mill, and there's 3 spaces there. We're looking at converting the easterly space to accessible, and then adding one close to the library here as well. So on-street accessible spaces there. And and thank you for the question there with the, I think it's the little folks daycare on Geddes. Just learning about that today. So I think we will certainly look into that and see if there's any options and reach out to the owners there. Just, get a handle for what they're experiencing and what the circumstances around those concerns are, for sure.
Yeah, that would be super helpful. Thank you. And I have one more question. Do you want me to wait?
Yes, Councillor Yvoy.
Through you, sir. Thanks. With regards to the accessible parking, I'm assuming that they follow the same rules with regards to the 3 hours. Before,
yes, through the mayor. Yes, they're in the 3 hour zone as well.
Great,
that's correct, and they'll be signed accordingly. Yes.
Thank you. I really want to say I appreciate with 65% of respondents saying that they didn't want residents to pay. I appreciate that you figured out, and I'm sure it was a fair bit of work to figure out how to make sure that happens. So thank you on behalf of all of us. I do have a couple of questions. I'll take my turns and ask. One, how will this, with all those people getting long-term stays, and happy that we can figure it out, i.e. full day stays for a lower price and month-long prices, how will that help with the major problem that started all this, which was turnover? How is that going to help? I'll come back to my next questions after that.
Through Mayor Waters, people coming to town for short-term stays would have to follow the rules that we're putting in place, which means if they're parking in zone 2, then they're paying $3 an hour to a max of $15 an hour, or I don't know. We can look at whether or not the place can apply for a monthly permit. That's not something we've contemplated at this point, but just having paid parking will encourage turnover regardless.
Okay, great. Thanks for clarification to the mayor. I just want to make sure that if all the people that work there are parking there and buying parking options to park there, have we actually solved the problem for anyone? Not that we don't want to solve it for those, but have we solved it for the locals who want to come in and out? So I'm just wanting to make sure I understood that.
Yeah, and through Mayor Waters, I believe it was noted in our parking strategy that paid parking does encourage turnover faster than just enforcement. But the good news here is we'd be generating a parking reserve that we could use to do something about additional parking supply that's not property tax dollars.
Okay, I'm looking over here. Councillor Welton.
Thank you, Mayor Waters. Just some quick questions. By residents, I assume you mean everyone in Centre Wellington could register their license plate, or residents of Elora only?
Township residents.
Township residents, yep. Perfect. And just a second question. I appreciate there's probably a lot to do before you can get it in place, but was there no opportunity to get like even a little pilot, like the parking lot by the LCBO or something, as paid this summer to capture the summer tourist visits or something like that? Nice to get something in early, just on one street, even just to get started. But
through Mayor Waters, in speaking to Alpha, there's a lot of groundwork to put in place to implement paid parking policies, procedures, bylaws. I think we need the time to make sure we get this right. So that's why we're suggesting fall of this year.
Okay. Any other on the side of the? Yes, Councillor Adams.
Yeah, thank you. Through you. I'm wondering if you could just, it looks like the financial analysis is at a high level at this point. So for what's already budgeted currently in 2025 or 26, is there like additional budgeting happening here, or are we kind of in line with what? I'm just, trying to make sense of the financial analysis here. Thanks.
Yep, thank you for the question, Councillor Adams. Through 2025, the only thing we had contemplated was the increased enforcement costs. So what is being contemplated here today hasn't been kind of baked into the 2025 budget, but certainly if endorsed by council today, it will certainly be very transparent through the 2026 process.
Okay, any other comments and questions on this side? Okay, Councillor MacDonald.
Through you, Mayor Waters, Smith Street is not noted on this. So does that mean we will not be doing any paid parking on Smith Street? Okay. And are we going to put up signage to that of any kind?
Yeah, through the mayor to Councillor MacDonald. So Smith is falling outside of the pay parking zone. So kind of the usual rules apply. So no parking, more than 24 hours consecutively. I believe it's kind of one of those, typical Elora roads where there's no curbs. There's a kind of like a gravel shoulder a little bit, but currently there's parking permitted on both sides of that street. So.
And through you, Mayor Waters, with the launch of our shuttle program, I think the shuttle has been excellent in helping with, residents or tourists can park at the raceway, shuttle in, but residents are using that shuttle a lot. And it's nice to see. I'm hearing residents from Fergus are taking the shuttle to come and work in Elora and vice versa. I'm just going to state, I always find a parking spot in Elora. I never find one in Fergus, and I go to Fergus a lot. So with that said, I hope we can expand on the shuttle even more. I hope that will keep going, because that is part of how we deal with parking as a package and tourism. And so I was happy to see it come back with an extra day being Fridays now.
Thank you, through you, sir. Seeing as how we're all doubling questions, I'll do the same thing. Residents who live near downtown or in downtown, we talked a lot about giving them permits or other options. I know downtown Elora and downtown Fergus, frankly, especially with the onset of 2 new apartment buildings. What are we looking at for those people, and how are we handling that?
Mayor Waters, for Elora, the thought was that if residents can register their license plate and park for free, then they need to park in zone 2 so that they can stay there up to 24 hours. And that would take place of any other permit required if they're living in the downtown. They just have to park in zone 2.
Of course, respectfully for them and through you, sir, hearing some of the comments, that means every 24 hours, if they're at home and their baby's sick and they're staying home, that means they have to still go out and move their car every 24 hours. Okay, and the other piece is around the cost to our staff to implement and to our township, the cost of these machines, et cetera, to run, to operate, to deal with, to install. What are we looking at from a budget lens, and how long to recover those costs?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Levoy, through you, Mayor Waters. The costs, and it's kind of stipulated in the financial analysis side where you see that first year drawing a negative. That takes into consideration some of the upfront infrastructure costs for the rollout, signage, hydro connections for some of the kiosks for paid parking, other things of that nature. So we would anticipate with the annual revenues expected north of, obviously at a very, very high level, north of $600,000, that we would become cash positive within the second year of operation.
Thank you, and we will own them. I know we've heard a lot of comments about the other type of ticketing that's happening now and how much money is being left on the proverbial table by giving it away to the owners of the business. So we will own these ourselves.
At a staff level, we've conducted analysis through several different scenarios, some being the outright purchase of the machines, other being lease of the machines over terms of 24 and 36 months, and then a rental program through the provider. The analysis that you see in the financial section would suggest an outright ownership, hence the need for the upfront cost in year 1.
Councillor MacDonald.
I'd just like to go back, through you, Mayor Waters. I'd just like to go back to, so on the drawing, the proposed parking payment zones. So zone 1 is the 3-hour paid parking. I see that. Zone 2, the straight blue line, is the long-term paid parking unpaid for residents. And then the P parking, zone 2, long-term paid parking lot unpaid for residents. So the unpaid is per 24 hours. So I'm sorry.
Through Mayor Waters, correct. If you're parking in zone 2, you can park there for up to 24 hours. And if you're a resident, you're parking for free.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Yes, Councillor Wilton.
No, I just want to comment that I think this is a good solution that's been brought forward, and I really appreciate that it's starting in Elora, so that's good. But yeah, no, I think it's great, the combination of having residents being able to park for free and having tourism pay a bit more for tourism, so thank you.
Okay, yes.
Thanks. One more question around STRs and what that looks like and how we thread these two projects together. With the short-term rentals and people staying overnight or for the weekend, how do we accommodate that parking that lands up on the street? Like, do they just buy 24-hour park? Like, how's that going to look?
Through Mayor Waters, they can park in zone 2 for up to 24 hours, but if they're a non-resident, they're paying, in this case, a $15 daily maximum. Yeah, I think other than that, it's up to the STR vendor to provide adequate parking.
Okay, yes, Councillor MacDonald.
Through you, Mayor Water, to CAO Wilson. We still have to work on our STR, so we don't even know what that looks like yet, right? Okay. I'm just checking because, yeah, thanks.
Okay. If there's no other questions, I'm looking at council. There's option 1, option 2, and I'm just hearing that we're leaning towards option 1. I see a lot of head nodding that way. Okay. So I'm going to read the recommendation that the Council of Township of Central Wellington authorize staff to initiate a downtown paid parking program in Elora as outlined in report CAO 2025-04, and that the Council of Township of Central Wellington delegate authority to Managing Director of Corporate Service and Treasurer to negotiate and execute a contract with Alpha Parking Solutions to provide paid parking implementation and services. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Craddock, seconder Councillor Wilton. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? That is so moved. Thank you very much for all your work and getting to here. It's been a bit of a journey. So, okay, we're just waiting for Councillor Jefferson to come in, and we'll move down to item 8.11. Welcome back.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, 2025 tax rates bylaw amendment. You're getting your money's worth here, Adam, for sure. So, okay, go for it.
Thank you, Mayor Waters. The purpose of the report before Council is to adopt an amendment to the bylaw passed at the May 12th meeting of Council to set the 2025 tax rates for the township. Since passage, staff have become aware that a tax rate was absent from the tax rate schedule for aggregate extraction properties. This amendment seeks to mitigate this oversight and take the opportunity to conduct a housekeeping exercise to include other tax rates if new assessment is identified. These new tax classes have recently been introduced by MPAC to capture various forms of on-farm diversified use. So with that, I'm happy to field any questions the council may have.
Thank you, Adam. Comments, questions from council? Councillor MacDonald.
Just one through you, Mayor Waters. So this will incorporate the farms that have a partial, like a small aggregate pit, but are still farming the rest of their land. That incorporates them.
Yes, it would incorporate anything with a residential, commercial, or industrial kind of diversified use on farm. At present, we haven't got any properties assessed as such, but should they come online, this will enable us to capture the appropriate taxes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Wilton.
Keith, through your Mayor Waters. Thank you, Adam. So just curious on the purpose of that. Are you hoping to tax the on-farm diversified use at a commercial rate instead of the agricultural rate? Or
it would be dependent upon the assessment through MPAC. So that really it would depend on what licensing the property owner holds in terms of the diversified use on farm. And we would this affords us the opportunity, because we haven't got the rates established in the bylaw. Should that assessment come to pass, this affords us the opportunity to do just that.
I just express some caution on that because in some municipalities, assessing the on-farm diversified use at a commercial rate has caused the economics of that to not function for the owner operator of the farm and the business. So just as you look into it and with MPAC's decisions, just to be careful on how that rate gets assessed. So, thank you.
Absolutely. And just a further comment on that, we still take our cues from the county in terms of kind of the tax ratio setting, and they'll be at the fore of this as the conversation continues.
Okay, any other comments, questions from council? Okay, thank you, Adam. I'll read the recommendation that the Council of Township Centre Wellington approve an amendment to the 2025 tax rate bylaw as outlined in Report Core 2025-29, and that a bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk with respect to the amendment. Do you have a mover for that? Councillor Craddock, seconder to that, Councillor Wilton. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? So moved. And I'll start with the bylaws. 2025-34, a bylaw to amend bylaws 2024-82, a bylaw to establish the fees and charges for various services provided by the municipality. Next, 2025-35, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2009-045 as amended the township zoning bylaw to change the zoning of certain lands from A to A agriculture, and EP environmental protection to A 20.7 and agricultural exemption, and EP environmental protection to provide new residential development 77356 line nickel. Next. To prohibit. What did I say? Why? Oh, sorry. Prohibit. Yes. Yes. Sorry. Right. My bad. 2025-36, bylaw to amend Schedule A to bylaw 2025-32, a bylaw to establish the tax rates for 2025. Recommendation bylaws 2025-34 and 2025-36 be read first, second, and third time and passed, signed by the Mayor and Clerk, and corporate seal affixed. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Craddock, Councillor Adams, all those in favor? So moved. Notice of motions where notice have been given. Confirmatory bylaw, a bylaw to confirm the action of council recommendation that bylaw 2025-37 to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held May 26, 2025 be introduced the first, second, and third time and passed in open council. Do you have a mover for that? Councillor Jefferson. Seconder on that, Councillor Wilton. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? So moved. Do we have a mover for adjournment? Councillor Wilton. Seconder on that? Councillor Jefferson. All those in favor? So moved. We'll see you again soon. Good night.